Chapter 73:18. F***CK. This guy is really shameless. Gongjun looked at Huang Tiangui's greedy face, and his eyes were filled with disgust. I've already raised the stakes a few times, but you're still greedy. This kind of guy is a mercenary. Just look at his cunning appearance, and you'll understand. He must want to take advantage of this opportunity to earn some money. When Xiren shook his head, they had long guessed that Huang Tiangui would definitely not be polite with such an opportunity. However, this fellow was simply too greedy. Huang Tiangui's heart was as clear as a mirror as how much they usually sold these fruits for. What they said about giving them to friends was just a disguised request. He was certain that even a consul would not be able to afford such expensive fruits. Huang Tiangui himself would probably feel the pinch if he came here himself. The reason why he was like this now was undoubtedly because the money was paid by someone else, so he didn't feel any heartache at all. The more I look at this guy's face, the more I hate him. Shangguan Yingying couldn't bear it anymore. At this moment, Beichen had increased the price again. Even though they knew that Beichen had a lot of fruits in his possession, these things were indeed very precious. Now that it was taken away by such a fat guy, they felt angry just thinking about it. I think with such a price, even if Beichen and the others did well in the mine, even if they weren't originally from a mine, they could directly buy the position of consul with such a price. That can't be helped. This guy is clearly relying on money. Fortunately, Beichen and the others have money. Xiren spread out his hands. Beichen and the others had already expected such a situation, so when this happened, they were mentally prepared. 3 more servings of fruits. In the Chun returning restaurant, everyone's gaze fell on D. Beichen's table. That was because the momentum was simply too frightening. In just a short time, there were already more than a dozen fruits on the table. Normally, it was already very impressive for someone to order 1 fruit at a sky-high price. Now, there were more than 10 of them. Together with this table of food and wine, it was truly a sky-high price. With such a price, even if it was just a rough calculation, everyone could not help but be stunned. Who are these people? That's too extravagant. I've been to Chun Returning Tower so many times, but this is the first time I've seen such a grand display. Normally, I feel that the people in the city are already rich enough. However, compared to these 2 people, the difference is huge. Obviously, they were not the ones who were paying. But looking at D. Beichen's calm face as he increased the price again and again, their hearts could not help but ache. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Huang Tiangui, whose smile was getting wider and wider, yet he still had not relented. A trace of disgust appeared in her eyes. If it weren't for the fact that she didn't want to completely fall out with him, she would have already fallen out with him. D. Beichen's expression was as usual. He turned a blind eye to the other party's shameless behavior and raised the price 1 by 1 until the other party fainted. Huang Tiangui was also shocked by D. Beichen's extravagance. He knew that D. Beichen was very extravagant, but this was the first time he had seen such extravagance. Fortunately, such good luck had fallen on him. This time, when he returned, he could hold his head high. These fruits, not to mention turning into cultivation resources, would definitely shock people if they were exposed to the sun. Chapter 73:19. Looking at the table full of fruits, D. Beichen's calm gaze fell on Huang Tiangui. His voice was as gentle as the sound of nature. Consul Huang, I've always admired you. I'm sure you understand what I mean. Of course, if you have other candidates in mind, I won't force you. D. Beichen smiled faintly. You're a busy person, and I don't want to waste your time. Unlike his previous friendliness, there was now a trace of indifference in his voice. Huang Tiangui was a shrewd person, so how could he not understand the meaning of these words? D. Beichen had already made his stance clear. He was going to raise the price to this point. If he still didn't agree, then so be it. Don't even think about taking any of these fruits away. Shangguan Yingying placed the last plate of fruits on the table and said, Guest, we have all the fruits for today. If you want more, I'm afraid you'll have to wait until tomorrow. Hearing this, a smile appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Yingying's character had always been quite fiery. She must have seen how greedy Huang Tiangui was and couldn't stand it anymore. so she ran over to leave such a sentence. After hearing this, Huang Tiangui completely gave up on this idea. In fact, this kind of harvest had already exceeded his expectations. However, when his gaze fell on Shangwan Yingying, a look of amazement appeared in his eyes. He had already noticed this attendant earlier. Compared to the other attendants, she was undoubtedly much prettier. Walking in the returning Chun Tower was pleasing to the eye. If it was any other day, he would just admire it. After all, this Chun returning tower looked extraordinary, and it would not be easy to make a move against the attendants here. However, things were different now that Di Beichen was here. Since the last time he went back, he had investigated Ji Chuan and Gu Jian's background. The result of the investigation was nothing special, and he didn't find any powerful background. However, after coming into contact with them, he understood that these two people must have some kind of power behind them. Otherwise, it would be impossible for two mine managers to have such a background. The other party was someone with a strong background, and, at the same time, he also had a favor to ask of him. It would be a pity if he didn't make good use of him. I want her. Shangwan Yingying's departing figure was suddenly pulled back. She was startled at first, and then her expression became abnormally ugly. What the hell was this damn guy talking about? Bailey Hongzhuang and Huang Tiangui didn't expect Huang Tiangui to suddenly make such a request. For a moment, they even suspected that they had misheard. I want this woman to accompany me for a night. Huang Tiangui's drooling eyes looked at Shangwan Yingying unscrupulously. This woman was really beautiful. If he could get his hands on her, the taste would be even better. Pa! Shangwan Yingying slapped Huang Tiangui's face. She didn't expect this guy to be so disgusting. He even had ideas about her, especially the other party's unbridled gaze. It made her want to vomit. When Xiren's expression was extremely ugly as he rushed out. Bastard, what did you say? I dare you to say it again. Who are you? Huang Tiangui looked at Wen Xiren, who had suddenly rushed out and was momentarily stunned. However, he quickly realized that this woman was most likely already taken, and this man was naturally the man in front of him. You spoke rudely to my wife, and now you ask who I am? Chapter 73:20. Bang! Xiren did not hold back and punched Huang Tiangui in the eye. In an instant, Huang Tiangui had panda eyes. When the cultivators in the returning Imperial Tower saw this scene, their interest was piqued. Originally, they were unhappy and jealous when they saw Huang Tiangui's greedy gaze. Now that this fellow had stirred up such trouble, it was undoubtedly the best outcome. In any case, they just wanted to see this fellow's unlucky appearance. Gong Jun hurriedly stood up and said to the guests in the restaurant, "Today, this table is Chun Lu's treat. Right now, there are other matters to attend to. I hope that everyone can leave. I'm really sorry." Gong Jun's tone was sincere and his attitude was very good. In addition, everyone was not at a disadvantage, so they all left the returning Chun Tower. The only pity was that they wouldn't be able to see the aftermath of this matter, so they were a little itchy. After everyone left, Gong Jun immediately closed the door of the restaurant. At this moment, Huang Tiangui also reacted. To him, he did not want to offend the Imperial Returning Tower, because he felt that this Imperial Returning restaurant was so extraordinary. Its background must be very impressive. The person he valued was just a waiter, so it shouldn't be a big deal. However, now that he had fallen into such a situation, he could not help but feel a little flustered. Fortunately, he was relieved to see that Di Beichen was still by his side. I didn't know she was already taken, Huang Tiangui explained, but his eyes were filled with disdain. It's good enough that I'm interested in her. What can you do? When Xiren heard this, he became even angrier. How could there be such an arrogant beast in this world? Most importantly, this guy dared to say such words in front of him. Wasn't he looking for a beating? If I don't kill you today, I'm not Xiren one. Xiren's anger rose in an instant. How dare he have designs on his wife? He must kill him. Bang! The elemental energy within Xiren's body suddenly burst forth, and he struck out with a punch once again. This bastard, he must kill him. Huang Tiangui did not think much of Xiren. As a consul, he still had some power. However, when Xiren rushed over, he suddenly realized that for some reason he was unable to exert any strength and immediately turned pale with fright. You actually used poison? He was sure that he had been poisoned for him to suddenly fall into such a situation. When Shangguan Yingying heard this, she knew that it was Bailey Hongzhuang's doing. Xiren, however, did not care so much at this moment. He punched Huang Tingzhe's face, punch after punch after punch. In just a short period of time, Huang Tinggui's face had already turned into a pig's head, and blood was flowing from the corner of his lips. Ji Chuan, help me deal with this guy, and I'll recommend you for the position of consul. Huang Tiangui looked at Di Beichun. His fighting strength was limited at this moment. Even if Di Beichun and Di Beichun were the same as him, they would not dare to mess around with Di Beichun's background. However, Di Beichun only looked at Huang Tingui indifferently and then stepped on his face. He ruthlessly crushed it. Huang Tiangui wanted to say something, but he could not say a word. He widened his eyes. He could not believe that Di Beichun dared to treat him like this. Bailey Hongzhuang also kicked him. She did not hold back at all, and her eyes were filled with disgust. I already dislike you, and now you dare to speak rudely to Yingying. Are you looking for death? Chapter 73:21. You, how dare you do this? Huang Tiangui didn't speak until Di Beichun retracted his foot. His eyes were still filled with disbelief. These two clearly had a favor to ask of him, but now they actually beat him up for a waiter. Was there something wrong with them? You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Di Beichun shook his head slightly. Since you're not willing to recommend me to become the consul of another place, then I'll just kill you and take over your position. The reason why he didn't directly attack Huang Tiangui was because he felt that it wouldn't be so troublesome to get information from an acquaintance in the position of consul. He didn't want to keep this guy alive, but it would be more troublesome. Since that was the case, he had to cut his losses in time and eliminate this guy. Huang Tiangui felt a chill run down his spine. His eyes were filled with fear. He never thought that Di Beichun would have such thoughts. I was indeed too much before. I promise that as long as you save me now, I'll definitely recommend you to become the new consul. Huang Tiangui hurriedly spoke, but the malicious look in his eyes couldn't be concealed. The reason why he was willing to promote Di Beichun was because he saw that there were benefits to be gained. This guy actually dared to do such a thing to him. When he got out, he would definitely teach Di Beichun a lesson. Consul Huang, when you promise benefits, you should at least be more sincere. Cover up the hatred in your eyes, just like I did before. Bailey Hongzhuang clicked her tongue and shook her head. With your current appearance, you're too careless. I can see through it at a glance. Huang Tiangui was slightly startled. Before he could react to the multiple layers of meaning in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shangguan Yingying's blade had already struck the vital part of his lower body. An earth-shattering scream rang out. Even outside the restaurant, everyone could hear it clearly. Huang Tiangui's face instantly turned red. The veins on his face bulged out from the pain, making him look extremely terrifying. When Xiren and the others saw this scene, they couldn't help but tighten their lower body. Sure enough, when a woman attacked, it was really terrifying. Just thinking about the pain in this vital part of the body was enough to know how painful it was. Bastard, you deserve it, Shangguan Yingying said fiercely. She felt humiliated when she thought about how she was targeted by such a person and how much he had thought about her in such a short time. Xiren, I'll leave it to you. Di Beichun didn't look at Huang Tingwei anymore. Instead, he pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to the side. It's too bloody. It's better if you don't watch it. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Are you worried that I'll learn from Yingying? Di Beichun's face darkened. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Not to mention anything else, Yingying's move had scared her. It was even more unbearable than directly killing the other party. This Huang Tiangui should have something on him as well. Today's business is worth it, Di Beichun said slowly as he looked at Gong Jun, who seemed to be in pain. Gong Jun's eyes lit up. The painful expression on his face disappeared in an instant. This guy is so greedy. I think he should have a lot of things. It's indeed worth it. Ha! Gong Jun had already rushed over and took off Huang Tiangui's storage ring. When Huang Tiangue saw how impolite Gong Jun was, he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Shameless. Too shameless. The next day, everything returned to normal. Di Beichen and Shangwan Yingying returned to the mine as if nothing had happened. End of chapter. Chapter 7332. Have you heard? Last night, someone molested a waiter at Chun Returning Restaurant. I wonder what happened after that. Chun Returning Restaurant's background must not be simple. Because of this incident, the people who ate last night did not even have to pay the bill. Think about it. Every table was expensive. In my opinion, Chun Returning Restaurant is rich and imposing. Its background is also very shocking. If it was any other restaurant, it would just be a waiter. Why would they spend so much effort? However, this person is really blind. Of all the places to stir up trouble, he just had to go to Chun Returning Restaurant. He deserves to end up like this. After this incident, the image of the returning imperial restaurant in everyone's mind became even more unfathomable. The background of this restaurant was definitely not simple. Even a waiter inside could not be easily offended. No one knew what would happen if they offended the waiter. However, the scream at that time was still clearly heard by many people. In the mine, everyone saw that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang had returned, but they did not see the consul. They could not help but have all sorts of guesses in their hearts. Even in the tent, Bailey Hongzhuang could hear all sorts of discussions coming from outside. In the past, the consul would stay in the mine for 2 to 3 days. Today was only the second day, and they did not see him. This was naturally a little strange. Master, what do we do now? Xiao He was a little worried. They originally had the idea of pleasing Huang Tiangue. Now, forget about pleasing him, they would directly obliterate the other party. With so many people watching this matter, they had no choice but to explain, this place is not very big. Coupled with Chun Returning Restaurant's influence, we don't need to say anything. This news will quickly spread in the mine. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was as usual. Up until now, no one knew their relationship with Chun Returning Restaurant. As such, as long as they used Chun Returning Restaurant as a cover, everything would become very simple. You can completely shirk the responsibility like this? Xiaobai was in disbelief. Won't the higher-ups investigate? If the people under your command would take liberties with women, and the matter became known to everyone, would you investigate? Di Beichen asked. Xiaobai shook her head. No, they had already lost so much face. If they were to investigate further, wouldn't they be laughed at again? That's it. Bailey Hongzhuang poured a cup of tea and took a sip. So, we just have to wait for the news. What we need to worry about now is whether the higher-ups will directly appoint someone to be our consul. If the higher-ups directly selected one of them to be the consul, it would undoubtedly be the best. However, if they chose to be parachuted in, they would inevitably have to spend a lot of effort. After seeing Huang Tiangue's face, they really didn't have any expectations for the people above. Seeing this, Xiao He and Xiao Bai also felt relieved. They were most worried that this matter would affect them. Since it would not affect them, everything else was not a big problem. In less than half a day, the news had already spread all over the mine. Gu Jian, is the news that everyone outside true? Zhou Su did not even bother to knock on the door and directly rushed into the tent with an incredulous expression on his face. Bailey Hongzhuang looked helplessly at the person who came in. Can't you say hello when you come in? We're all men. What's it to care about? Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 7333. Zhou Su didn't take this matter to heart. Even if you take a bath here, I can still take a bath with you. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a hint of sharpness. This guy has been getting bolder and bolder recently. Come on. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't expect Zhou Su to talk about such a horrifying topic. I dislike you very much. I'll go. Zhou Su rolled his eyes. No, now is not the time to talk about this. I've already heard about Gue Chin Tower. Was it Consul Huang who molested the waiters there last night? You all know. Di Beichen asked. As soon as these words came out, Zhou Su and Lei Jun's expressions became exceptionally strange. It's actually true? Zhou Su raised his voice. The news spread early in the morning, but at first, no one was sure whether it was Consul Huang or not. How is he now? Di Beichen shook his head. I don't know. You don't know? Weren't you with Consul Huang last night? How could you not know about this? Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. We are also worried about this matter. What the hell is going on? Explain it clearly. Zhou Su looked nervous. If something happens to Consul Huang here, we will all be in trouble. Lei Jun looked at Deep Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang, who looked worried and understood. Consul Huang's life is most likely in danger. It's not easy for the two of you to still be alive. It seems that the backer of this returning Imperial Tower is also reasonable. Hearing this, Zhou Su still did not understand. What do you mean? Yesterday, we didn't expect Consul Huang to suddenly lose his mind and flirt with the waiter. Moreover, it became more and more exaggerated. He even said nonsense in front of the waiter's husband. Bailey Hongzhuang said it simply, but Zhou Su and Zhou, you could almost imagine the scene at that time. If it was just a young lady, it would be fine. However, she actually dared to say such outrageous words in front of her husband. If it was anyone else, it would be impossible for them to suppress their anger. Wasn't this courting death? And then, at that time, we apologized on behalf of the consul, but on one hand, the other party didn't listen at all. On the other hand, Consul Huang didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it at all. He only felt that he was stronger and even wanted to snatch him away. The other party was very strong. Later, Ji Chuan and I were directly knocked unconscious. This morning, we woke up on the street. At this point, the two of them completely understood. Obviously, Deep Beichin and Consul Huang were directly thrown out after being knocked unconscious, but Consul Huang did not appear, so the outcome was obvious. Then it's over. The consul is dead for sure. Zhou Su sighed. There was helplessness between his eyebrows. I really think that the consul is looking for death. Lei Jun, what do you think? You can't casually say such words. If others hear it, we will all be in trouble. Lei Jun's expression was solemn. But I think so too. The consul is dead. Will this matter implicate us? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Lei Jun nodded. The consul is dead. Such a big matter. The higher-ups will definitely send someone to investigate. You two don't need to say more. Others may also be implicated. The consul is really seeking death. It's fine if he wants to bring us along. It's really infuriating. Chapter 73-34. This matter was caused by the consul himself. It has nothing to do with us. Bailey Hongzhuang looked anxious. We have to think of a way. We can't be implicated by this. Lei Jun, you are better at thinking of solutions. What do you think we should do in this situation? Zhou Su turned his gaze to the Lei army. Among them, the Lei army had stayed here for the longest time and could come up with the most ideas. Lei Jun pondered for a moment before saying, the only way now is to expand this news. It's best if everyone knows about it. We have to let everyone know that the consul was the one who brought this upon himself, and it was useless for us to stop him. There was no need for the higher-ups to investigate. The news would reach their ears directly. That was enough. I don't think they will spend too much effort on a drunken consul. Lei Jun looked at Ji Chuan and continued, moreover, now that the consul is dead, it's a good opportunity for you to rise. Take advantage of this opportunity and let everyone recommend you. When the time comes, your chances of success will be very high. Di Beichin raised his eyebrows slightly. Lei Jun was also a smart person, and the idea he came up with was the same as theirs. Indeed, this was the best course of action right now. Xiaohei saw how her master was able to get the other party to help them come up with a plan with just a few words. She was secretly impressed by her master's ability to get the other party to help them count the money they had already thought of. This was probably the situation they were talking about. You guys stay here for now. It won't be good if you guys spread the news. It's best to let others talk about it first. At this moment, Zhou Su also understood that this was a heaven-sent opportunity. As long as Di Beichun could become the next consul, it would be of great help to them. In any case, he was the one with the most hope in the entire mine. If it were anyone else, no one would be convinced. Under such circumstances, Di Beichun and Xiaohei became the most leisurely people. Watching everyone running around, Zhou Su and Xiaohei carried out this matter without anyone knowing. They quietly found a stranger to talk about the matter vividly. It was just like what Qin Yin had seen. Moreover, the consul was as hateful as he could be. No matter how deep Bei-chun and Xiao He persuaded him, the consul was so fierce that the two of them were even injured because of the consul. After hearing all this, the managers of the mine couldn't help but feel aggrieved for Bei-chun and Xiao He. What was bad luck? This was really bad luck. The consul in everyone's eyes, and Xiao He. If it were them, the situation wouldn't be any better. Originally, this matter made everyone sympathize with Bei-chun and Xiao He. In addition, the people they arranged took the opportunity to fan the flames and magnify some of the things the consul had done infinitely, which made everyone feel disgusted. 2 days later, Lei Jun and Zhou Su showed smiles on their faces. The matter has been solved. The people in the entire mine already know the whole story. It has nothing to do with you. At that time, even if the people above come to investigate, you don't have to worry at all. You don't have to show up. There's already irrefutable evidence. Lei Jun revealed a smile. After settling this matter, he felt a lot more at ease. Chapter 73:35. This is all thanks to you. Bailey Hongzhuang thanked them. Even though everything was within their expectations, the Lei Jun duo had still put in a lot of effort for this matter. They were also grateful from the bottom of their hearts. Actually, we didn't do anything. Lei Jun waved his hand. After all, you have built a good reputation in the mine. What happened in the number 64 mine made everyone feel grateful to you. In addition, your strength is unmatched. The previous incident with Zhang Sun also gave everyone a better impression of you. Everyone feels that you are different from Yuan Gang, which is why everything has been so easy for us. Lei Jun's words were very honest. Claiming credit was something that anyone would be happy to do. However, this kind of thing was obvious. If the object of this matter was not Bei-chun, but Yuan Gang, then all of this would not have happened so easily. No matter what, it's all thanks to you guys. Bei-chun smiled faintly. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze also fell on the two of them. Once they were done with everything, they would not be staying here for too long. She still remembered what happened in the small town. Lu Jin's business had to continue. She had always wanted to find a reliable person so that the business could continue. Both of them needed to find more ways to increase their cultivation resources. Leaving this matter to the two of them was undoubtedly a win-win situation. After this period of time, she also believed that the two of them were reliable people. What is there to thank us for? Zhou Su chuckled. When you become consuls, you can take care of us. We can't ask for anything more. Don't worry, I'll definitely take care of my own people. Bei-chun shook his head. This guy was always thinking about these two things. Hearing these words, Zhou Su also jumped for joy. Ji Chuan, I knew you were a good brother. At this time, Bei-chun could say that he was on the same side. This represented a completely different meaning. In just a few days, the higher-ups had already known the news of Huang Tingui's death and immediately sent people to investigate the situation. Bei-chun and Zhou Su both expected that things would come quickly, so the two of them had been staying in the mine for the past few days without leaving. Everything was carried out in an orderly manner as before. The atmosphere in the mine was very harmonious, but everyone knew that this was just the calm before the storm. When the higher-ups came, they would inevitably conduct a large-scale investigation. Fortunately, this matter was originally a fact. Even if some people had other ideas in their hearts, at this time, the minority obeyed the majority, which was meaningless. Not long after, the three people sent by the higher-ups appeared in the mine. As soon as the three people walked into the mine, Bei-chun's group noticed their difference. This was because the aura emitted by the three of them was much stronger than that of ordinary people. Most of the cultivators' strength, but these three people's is obviously stronger. Assess most importantly, the disdainful look in their eyes had already revealed their pretentious thoughts. In an instant, everyone came out to greet them. All the managers of the mine gather here. His loud and clear voice reverberated through the mine, clearly falling into everyone's ears. Chapter 73:36. Along with this loud and intimidating voice, the stewards in the mine were all alarmed and rushed out of their tents. Bailey Hongzhuang, Bei-chun, and the others walked directly in the direction of the three people. They had to pass today's test. Soon, the stewards sighed with emotion. The stewards of hundreds of mines gathered together. The scale was not small. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the 3 people in front of her. There were 2 men and 1 woman. Although they looked very young, she could tell that the 3 of them had been cultivating for a long time. Through their clothes and waist tags, she could confirm that the 3 of them were the same as Huang Tiange. They were all consul of the mine, but they did not belong to the area they were in. Consul Huang has fallen. We need to know the truth. The man on the left swept his gaze across the crowd. His sharp gaze seemed to be able to see through everything. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. The other party's cultivation was also in the elementary celestial stage. Obviously, he was using his aura to oppress them. Because her and Beichen's cultivation was not weaker than the other parties, such an aura did not affect them much. However, for the other cultivators, this pressure was not so easy to bear. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly glanced at Di Beichen. The latter had long expected such a situation and pretended to be unable to bear it. Bailey Hongzhuang's lowered eyes flashed with a smile. Beichen had learned medical skills from her. Usually, he did not use it much. However, at a time like this, the effect was completely revealed. His expression of being unable to bear was extremely realistic and did not seem like a disguise at all. Looking at the great pressure on everyone's faces, the man snorted coldly. He seemed to be very satisfied with such an outcome. The arrogance in his expression was even more obvious. Something happened to the consul in your station. All of you have an unshirkable responsibility. Now, I'll give you a chance. As long as you hand over the culprit of this matter, your mistakes can be forgotten. However, if you don't tell us, once we find out, the outcome will be completely different. The pressure emitted by the consul suppressed everyone, and everyone's faces turned pale. However, they had already discussed what to do before, and no one had any thoughts of changing their minds. As a matter of fact, this matter had nothing to do with Di Beichen. Even if they came forward now and investigated the matter thoroughly, the consul would not kill them indiscriminately. In this way, he had angered the 2 of them, and there would be countless troubles in the future. Seeing that no one stood out to speak, the man was a little surprised. Usually, when something like this happened, as long as they asked, these stewards would jump out one after another to show off. They were well aware of the schemes of the managers of these mines. However, the performance before them had indeed exceeded their expectations. You, the man pointed at a random person. Tell me what you know. The steward who was pointed at was stunned at first. Then, without any scruples, he told the truth as he knew the truth. After the man told the whole story, the 3 consul could not help but look at each other. They knew that Huang Tiangue had always been unreliable, greedy, and lecherous. Fortunately, he had some skills and was not someone who did not have any eyesight. Otherwise, he would not have been able to get to the position of consul. End of chapter. Chapter 73-37. Before they came, they had heard some rumors, but none of them took it to heart. At least, they believed that with Huang Tiangue's status, he wouldn't do something so embarrassing. However, when they heard the whole story from the steward's mouth and the process of the incident was described very clearly, their faces did not look too good. Such a way of dying was simply too shameful. It was one thing for Huang Tiangue to embarrass himself, but he had to use such a method to embarrass all of them. Are you serious? The man stared at the steward in front of him. His sharp gaze was filled with endless pressure. It was as if the man dared to lie, his life would immediately be forfeited. The steward looked nervous and shook his head repeatedly. Consul, I'm not lying. After the man saw that this person's gaze didn't seem to be lying, he moved his gaze away from him. The latter also quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Is there anyone else who wants to add to this? Silence. The group of managers all fell silent. This was the truth, and no one needed to add anything. Who were the 2 people accompanying Consul Huang that day? Come out, the man said sternly. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang stood up together. When the man saw the 2 of them step out, a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. Consul Huang was drunk and caused trouble, but the 2 of you didn't stop him. I think you did it on purpose. Without any warning, the man's palm shot towards Di Beichen. Tang Yuan, stop. The man in the middle who had been silent all this while suddenly attacked and blocked the man's attack. Tang Yuan looked at him with some confusion. This matter is inseparable from the two of them. What's wrong with you? You have heard the whole story clearly. If this is the truth, then this matter has nothing to do with the two of them. I know that you and Huang Tiangui were friends, but he's already dead. You don't have to implicate others. These two people didn't do anything wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man in the middle. She thought that the three of them were the same kind of people. She didn't expect one of them to be so reasonable. However, this was also good, lest things develop in a worse direction. We will investigate this matter thoroughly. If everything is really like this, then so be it. However, if I find out that someone is trying to deceive us, then the consequences will not be so simple. Tang Yuan's expression was ice cold. His gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and Li Qie. It was obvious that his hatred had yet to dissipate. That day, the three of them stayed in Huang Tingui's tent. As the consul of this area, Huang Tingui naturally had a place to live, and the place he lived in was better than the others. However, he didn't come here often, and almost every time he came out to have fun, so the number of times he stayed here was also very few. On this day, the entire mine was exceptionally quiet. Even the sounds of beating and scolding the miners were restrained, making it seem exceptionally peaceful. Zhou was also worried that something would happen in the middle of the journey, so they couldn't relax at all. In the end, they simply stayed with Di Beichen. No matter what happened next, they would be able to deal with it immediately. Don't worry too much. This matter has nothing to do with us. Even if they investigate, the result will be the same. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Zhou Su and said, "Who said I was worried?" Zhou Su said. Chapter 73:38. Looking at Zhou Su's stubborn appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and was too lazy to expose him. On the other hand, Lei Jun asked, "When did you start to like eating tea?" Zhou Su stared blankly. When he looked, the water in the teacup had already been finished. Wasn't the thing in his mouth, the tea leaves? I don't think that Tang Yuan is a good person. He doesn't distinguish between right and wrong at all. Fortunately, there's another consul who looks good. We won't be in danger, Lei Jun said. Haven't we already thought about all of this a long time ago? Then don't think about it. It's fine. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. She was indeed not worried. The only thing she was worried about was the returning Chun Tower. The bystanders had concluded that the background of the Imperial returning tower could not be underestimated. But in fact, they knew very well that there was no power behind the Imperial returning tower. If these three fellows wanted to find trouble with the Imperial returning tower, then it would be troublesome. However, she felt that the three of them were not reckless people and would not do such a thing. In another tent, Tang Yuan, although you and Huang Tingui are friends, you don't have to work so hard for him, right? The woman was a little puzzled. Haven't you always wanted to recommend your brother to be a consul? Now that Huang Tiangui is dead and there's an empty consul position, you can give it a try. Tang Yuan smiled faintly. It is indeed an opportunity. Zhong Lei glanced at Tang Yuan. Shui Qin, this kid already has a plan in his heart. It's hard for you to not see through it. Shui Qin was slightly taken aback. After Zhong Lei's reminder, she completely understood. Come to think of it, Tang Yuan's previous actions were not because he was indignant about Huang Tingui's death. He was just trying to show off in front of everyone. Once his brother became the new consul, no one would be able to pin the blame on him. It was indeed a good tactic to take advantage of the situation and pretend to be innocent. That's true, but usually when the consul dies, the next consul will be chosen from the mine because that's the best way to know the situation in the mine. If they choose one person, I'm afraid this matter will not be easy to handle. If Huang Tiangui doesn't die, isn't there still a spot? Don't tell me that we can't get that spot. Tang Yuan waved his hand. That quota has long been targeted by others. I don't have that guy's methods. Hearing this, Zhong Lei and Shui Qin seemed to have understood who the other party was, so they did not continue speaking. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen frowned when they heard the news from Xiao He and Xiao Bai. I knew that Tang Yuan was up to no good. It turns out that he was eyeing the position of consul here, Xiao He said. I'm afraid things are going to be a little troublesome now. He wants to shove his younger brother in. It will be very difficult for us to compete with him. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. They didn't know anyone else in this spirit-devouring mine organization, nor did they have any background. It was undoubtedly very difficult to snatch a spot from them. How about we kill Tang Yuan and give his position to his younger brother? The corners of Di Beichen's lips curled up slightly. There was a hint of evil on his handsome face. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. She looked at Di Beichen with some surprise. Then she chuckled and said, "It's not impossible. Let's wait and see tomorrow." Fortunately, Zhou Su and Xiao He were not here. Otherwise, if they heard Di Beichen's idea, they would probably think that he was crazy. Chapter 73-39. The next day, everyone gathered together again. Tang Yuan and the other two had already understood the whole matter after last night. The whole thing had spread like wildfire in the city. There was almost no need for them to inquire. The news had already reached their ears. Such a way of dying was really too shameful. Even if the three of them did not have a good relationship with Huang Tiangui, even as colleagues, they felt shameful. As for going to Guichun Tower, they did not even think about this idea. Not to mention that Guichun Tower's background was very mysterious. Even if they went to look for this kind of thing, they would be the ones in the wrong. Even if this kind of thing was reported, everyone would only feel that death could not wipe out the crime. They did not need to investigate at all. We have already investigated the whole matter clearly. Consul Huang's death is his own matter. It has nothing to do with everyone. Tang Yuan still stood up and took the lead to speak. After we report it, this matter will not have any impact on everyone, so everyone can rest assured. As soon as these words came out, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. In addition, since Consul Huang has already fallen, then the position of consul must be filled by someone. When the time comes, there will be a new consul. Everyone just needs to do their job well. Zhou Su and the others all frowned. Lei Jun looked at Zhang Sun on the side. Zhang Sun's face was bitter. How could he be so unlucky? Previously, because he coveted Ji Chuan's position, he had already lost face in front of everyone. He did not expect that because of this matter he would be blackmailed, and now he was threatened by Lei Jun standing up to speak did not necessarily mean that he would die. But if he did not stand up now, when the three consul left, he would really lose his life. Thinking of this, Zhang Sun could only bite the bullet and say, "Consul, according to past practice, if a consul falls, then the next consul should be promoted from among us, right?" Tang Yuan did not expect that someone would raise doubts at this time. His cold gaze immediately fell on Zhang Sun's head. However, in front of so many people, he could not directly crush this kid to death. According to past practice, it is indeed so. However, Consul Huang died suddenly, and we are not clear about the situation in your mind. This promotion is naturally very blind. Instead of this, it is better to directly appoint a new consul. When Consul Huang was alive, he had always been very optimistic about Manager Ji, and all of us are very much in favor of Manager Ji taking over the position of consul. Zhang Sun said. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Zhang Sun, and then at Lei Jun. "Steward Ji." Tang Yuan was slightly taken aback. "Who is it?" "Ji." When Tang Yuan saw that the man in front of him was the man who stood out yesterday, a hint of mockery appeared in his eyes. "You." When Huang Tiangui died, Di Beichen was beside him. Now that Huang Tiangui was dead, Di Beichen wanted to replace him. Who knew if this was a trap from the beginning? "Consul, you just said that the matter has been investigated clearly, and it has nothing to do with us." Di Beichen reminded him. Chapter 73-40. We've settled everything in the crossing immortal domain. That's why we came back. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the destruction around her and understood what had happened. A trace of guilt appeared on her delicate and elegant face. We've encountered something like this before. We rushed back as soon as we realized that something was wrong. I didn't expect that we would still be one step too late and cause such a loss. Bai Ziyuan waved his hand. These losses are nothing. Fortunately, young Master Mo and the others are here. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have died today. Bailey Hongzhuang also sighed. This is also because we were lucky. If something really happened, Deep Beichin and the others also had complicated expressions. Before they came, they had been worried that something like this would happen. On the way here, they still had a trace of hope. They only thought that it was just a sentence from the Qing devil. Perhaps they didn't think of it after they were injured. They didn't expect that this trace of hope would be meaningless. In the end, it still happened. But this was already a blessing in disguise. Miss Bailey, you don't have to take this to heart. You've helped us a lot before. This time, it was really unexpected. It wasn't what you expected. But Qingli comforted. Her gentle face did not have the slightest bit of resentment. It was as if she really did not have any complaints about this. Linger looked at the casualties and said, "At least this is much better than the situation in the small town. What's going on? Why is the Qing devil so crazy?" Mo Yunju asked. "We found Xiao Sou in the crossing immortal domain and planned to snatch her identity token. We didn't expect to encounter the Qing devil in the process. The Qing devil was seriously injured by us, but we were also seriously injured. Xiao Sou was taken away by his people." Mo Yunjue immediately understood. So that's how it is. Then Xiao Seiwu's luck is really good. She can actually escape in this situation. Isn't it? It's really depressing. Bali Yin Che looked helpless. Xiao Sou had been a nuisance for too long. In fact, this person would not be able to affect them too much. However, the most troublesome thing was that the key was still in her hands. If they did not retrieve the key, Beichin would not be able to open the inheritance. Now that Xiao Sou had the support of Qing Devil, it was more difficult to deal with him. This is? Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed the man beside Mo Yunjue. From the way he stood, he should not be from the city lord's mansion. Instead, he was closer to Yunju. This is a new friend we made recently. His name is Yi Sun. Zhongli Mu smiled as he introduced. We met him when we were training, and he helped us out. It just so happened that he was cultivating alone, so we got together. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. She immediately showed a kind smile. "Hello, I'm Bailey Hongzhuang. I've heard about you a long time ago. Seeing you is better than hearing about you 100 times. You're really a first-class beauty. Lord Yi, you flatter me. Let's not stand here. How about we go to the courtyard and sit down to talk?" Bai Ziyuan asked. Okay, everyone nodded. They had to come up with a solution for the current situation. Otherwise, they would not be able to leave with peace of mind. Chapter 73:41. Only then did Tang Yuan notice that all the stewards present were looking at him with eyes full of hatred. The others thought about it very clearly. The election had always been a tradition. They didn't know what was wrong with Zhang Sun to fight so hard for Ji Chuan. However, there was nothing wrong with that. Tang Yuan wanted to kill Zhang Sun without hesitation. If Zhang Sun became their consul in the future, their future would be even more difficult. This scene did not stop Tang Yuan from killing Zhang Sun. Instead, it made him even angrier. The hand that was strangling Zhang Sun's throat tightened continuously, and the ruthlessness in his eyes was unmistakable. When Zhang Sun realized that Tang Yuan was really going to kill him, he shouted desperately, "Save me!" Bang! Di Beichun threw a punch at Tang Yuan. No one would have thought that Di Beichun would have the guts to attack Tang Yuan, and no one would have thought that Di Beichun would attack Tang Yuan for Zhang Sun. No one understood why Zhang Sun would try so hard to defend Di Beichun today. It had only been a short time. When did Zhang Sun and Di Beichun become so close? You're courting death. Tang Yuan's original target wasn't Zhang Sun. He just couldn't find a reason to make a move on Di Beichun. Now that Di Beichun had taken the initiative to attack him, it was only right to kill him. Tang Yuan casually threw Zhang Sun out. Seeing this, Lei Jun and the others caught Zhang Sun one after another. Only then did Zhang Sun not fall directly to the ground. Cough, cough, cough. Zhang Sun clutched his neck and kept coughing. His face was still red. If not for Di Beichun's help, he would have died. He couldn't help but look at Di Beichun, who was fighting with Tang Yuan. He had a complicated feeling in his heart. He never thought that Di Beichun would actually save him. Bang! After exchanging blows with Di Beichun, Tang Yuan realized that this brat was not weak at all. In fact, he did not even think that he was stronger than his opponent. How is this possible? A look of astonishment surfaced in Tang Yuan's eyes. The other party was merely a steward, but he actually had such powerful strength. Before they came, they had also checked the records of the mines manager. There was no record of this man's strength at all. No wonder so many stewards supported him. With such strength, he was indeed qualified to become a consul. Shui Qin and Zhong Lei, who were at the side, were also somewhat surprised. Previously, they also did not discover Di Beichen's strength. This brat had hidden it quite deeply. If Tang Yuan had not intended to kill Zhang Sun, Di Beichen would not have revealed his strength. However, with the current situation, they had no intention of making a move. The one who wanted this position was Tang Yuan, and it had nothing to do with them. There was no need for them to get involved. Di Beichen did not hold back after making his move. Since the situation had developed to this point, killing Tang Yuan was imperative. Bailey Hongzhuang had been standing to the side. Seeing that Shui Qin had no intention of making a move, she also bided her time. When did Ji Chuan become so strong? This consul Tang's strength doesn't seem to be as strong as Ji Chuan. How can he be our consul? This kind of strength can't convince the masses. Although everyone had seen Di Beichen defeat Yuan Gang was only a relatively powerful steward. He was completely different from the consul. Now that they saw Di Beichen actually suppressing Tang Yuan, they realized that Di Beichen was actually stronger than they thought. Chapter 7342. Zhou Su and Lei Jun did not know what to do at the moment. This matter was completely different from what they had expected. It was developing in the opposite direction. Not only did they fail to settle the matter peacefully, they even made the situation worse. Now that Di Beichen was going against the consul, they couldn't even imagine the consequences. Being kicked out would be a light punishment. Boom! Di Beichen ruthlessly punched Tang Yuan's chest. Everyone only heard the crisp sound of bones breaking. Immediately after, they discovered that Tang Yuan's sternum had caved in under this punch. Damn, that's awesome. Zhou Su couldn't understand the consequences of this matter, so he simply didn't think about it. At this moment, seeing Di Beichen fight so happily, he also felt as if he had vented his anger. Among the three consuls, Tang Yuan was the most annoying. The arrogance and contempt in his words filled their hearts with resentment. Ji Chuan, you can do it. Zhang Sun saw that he couldn't help much, so he could only cheer him on. With his shout, Zhang Sun noticed that everyone was looking at him with strange expressions. Just as he was feeling a little awkward, suddenly, Ji Chuan, do your best. Come on, kill him. The group of stewards shouted one after another. They couldn't stand it any longer. Although the consul's status was indeed higher than theirs, and they usually didn't have the guts to do so, today's unexpected development made them feel unprecedentedly carefree. What did it feel like to have over 100 managers cheering together? Di Beichen's lips slowly curved into a faint smile. He had never felt a sense of belonging to the mine because everything here had nothing to do with him. The reason he saved Zhang Sun was undoubtedly because he knew that Zhang Sun was coming for him, so there was really no need to implicate innocent people. However, this situation still made him feel a little strange. On the contrary, Tang Yuan was so angry that he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. He was a consul, but now he was being suppressed by a steward. It was one thing for Zhong Lei and Wang Rong not to help, but the managers of the mine were actually cheering for Di Beichen. It was as if he had done something unforgivable. These traitors. Once he killed Di Beichen, they would all be punished. Bang, bang, bang. Di Beichen did not use the power of darkness. Instead, he used the power of light. A dazzling light mixed with extreme power enveloped Tang Yuan like a sudden clap of thunder. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out, and energy ripples spread out in the air. The figure wrapped in dazzling white light had already smashed into the ground, creating an astonishingly deep pit. Wow, awesome! Zhou Su was amazed. With Di Beichen's ability, he should have become a consul long ago. Ji Chuan is mighty. Everyone shouted one after another, completely ignoring Tang Yuan, whose fate was unknown in the deep pit. Zhonglei and Shui Qin looked at each other. Such a situation was undoubtedly beyond their expectations. With this kid's reputation here, it will be difficult for others to become a consul here, Zhonglei said slowly. Shui Qin nodded slightly. According to common sense, he should indeed become the new consul. Tang Yuan's actions are not a big deal in private. If things get out of hand, Tang Yuan will also be Li Kuei's subordinate. At this time, the two of them remembered that Tang Yuan was still in the deep pit. In any case, they were in the same profession, so they could not completely ignore him. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at this scene and understood that although the three of them came together, they did not have deep feelings for each other. Otherwise, they would not have stood still when they saw Tang Yuan seriously injured. Chapter 73-43. When Zhonglei and the other man found Tang Yuan from the deep pit, their faces were filled with shock. Tang Yuan was dead. He was beaten to death by a steward right in front of them. When Zhou Su and the others saw that Di Beichen had actually beaten him to death, they couldn't help but be speechless. Fierce, this was really too fierce. Earlier, you said that Consul Huang's death had nothing to do with you. But in the blink of an eye, you killed the consul in front of the other two. Di Beichen stood there calmly, without the slightest hint of fear. You killed a consul. Zhonglei looked at Di Beichen with a solemn expression. He didn't expect things to get so out of hand. Now that Zhonglei was dead, the matter this time would be troublesome. He wanted to kill me first, Di Beichen replied. I don't think he wants to kill you. Zhonglei narrowed his eyes as a cold light surged within them. He's the consul, so he can kill people in our mine as he pleases? Di Beichen asked back. If he doesn't die, Zhang Sun will die, I will die, and even Gu Jian and the managers who are on good terms with me will die. I don't know which mine Consul Tang is in charge of, but he is not the consul of our mine and has no right to kill any of us. When Zhang Sun and the others heard this, they could not help but feel agitated. Di Beichen was right. As long as Tang Yuan did not die, they would all die. Now that Di Beichen had admitted to all this, it was tantamount to taking all the responsibility on himself. They couldn't help but feel guilty. Zhonglei frowned slightly. He knew that Di Beichen was telling the truth. Even he couldn't help but admire him for his actions. No wonder Di Beichen had such a reputation. A person like him was born to be a leader. However, Tang Yuan had died in his hands. This matter could not be settled just like that. That may be the case, but you've gone too far in handling this matter. Everyone couldn't help but laugh coldly when they heard this. Had he gone overboard? All of you have been watching the show from the side, without any intention of stopping them. Now you're saying that they're going overboard. Isn't that a little too funny? In short, I have to bring you back to give an explanation for what happened, Zhonglei said. How can that do? Zhang Sun hurriedly said. Why not? Zhonglei's expression was indifferent. You guys are the ones who created this mess. It's already good enough that I didn't kill you on the spot. After I bring you back, you may not necessarily lose your life. Shui Qin didn't say anything. She knew in her heart that Zhonglei was undoubtedly admiring Di Beichen. If that wasn't the case, Zhonglei wouldn't have wasted his breath. I was also involved in the incident that night. If you want an explanation, I'll go with you, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Do you think that's a place where anyone can go? Ji Chuan and I have always been in charge together. I've been involved in the entire matter. Since we're going to investigate, we naturally have to investigate thoroughly. If we have to do the same thing, then... As soon as he finished speaking, the Yuan energy in Bailey Hongzhuang's body surged. After sensing the tyrannical aura, Zhonglei and Shui Qin's expressions changed. Previously, they had focused all their attention on Di Beichen. They hadn't noticed that this kid had reached such a cultivation level. Shui Qin looked at Zhonglei. This guy wasn't someone to be trifled with. Bring them back together, Zhonglei said. He had originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's position was very interesting. It was as if she was guarding against them. Chapter 73-44. At that time, he didn't put Bailey Hongzhuang in his eyes at all. She was just a steward. It was impossible for her to guard against the two of them. However, it wasn't until this moment that he realized that her actions were not superfluous, but she really had the strength. Previously, he didn't pay attention to Di Beichen, But now he found that their ability to hide their strength was not weak. If Tang Yuan hadn't forced them to take action, they would have continued to hide. In any case, these two boys were a little strange. It would be good to take them back to understand. If they really had other intentions by staying here, it would be better to deal with them as soon as possible. Di Beichun didn't stop Bailey Hongzhuang. He understood that she did so because she was worried about his safety. Moreover, with Hongzhuang's strength, she would never be a burden. Shuiqi nodded slightly and didn't object. Things had developed to this point. Instead of letting them go back to explain themselves, it was better to take them back and let them explain. Zhou Su and the others couldn't help but feel anxious. If they stayed here, it might be possible to escape, but once they were taken back, it was very likely that they wouldn't even be able to keep their lives. Ji Chuan, I think you should take the opportunity to run, Zhou Su said anxiously. After getting along with each other for so long, they were brothers. He really couldn't watch them die. Di Beichun smiled faintly, without the slightest fear between his brows. Don't worry, the situation may not be as bad as you think. If it really comes to that point, we will run. Seeing Di Beichun's indifference, Zhou Su was even more anxious. What did this guy think the Devouring or Pavilion was? It was the most heavily guarded place in the entire Du Xian domain. As far as he knew, the Devouring or Pavilion had a close relationship with the Immortal domain. Even if they weren't weak, it was impossible for them to come out after going to the Devouring or Pavilion. Zhong Lei glanced at Zhou Su indifferently. Zhou Su suddenly felt alarmed and didn't dare to continue transmitting his voice. He didn't know how much stronger this guy was than him. Would he be able to hear what he said? Now that things had come to this point, Zhong Lei and the other man had no intention of staying here for long. They immediately left the mine with Di Beichun and the other man. As for Shui Qin, she brought Tang Yuan's corpse back. The relationship between Gu Jian and Ji Chuan is really deep. Going with Ji Chuan at a time like this, isn't that just courting death? Although everyone felt that it was a pity, Gu Jian's actions had exceeded all of their expectations. Even though they also hoped that Di Beichun would be able to get through this safely, they didn't dare to risk their lives to follow him. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Zhong Lei on his flying magic tool. The flying magic tool of the crossing immortal domain was also very fast. However, the two of them were being watched, so it was impossible to judge their speed. The two of you are quite calm. Zhong Lei looked at the two people who looked normal and didn't have the slightest bit of worry. A trace of interest appeared in his eyes. If it were an ordinary person, they would be restless if they were suddenly taken away and faced with the possibility of being killed. However, the two of them acted as if nothing had happened. If he hadn't been watching the two of them, they would have been focusing on studying the flying magic tool. We didn't do anything wrong. Naturally, there's no need to worry. Di Beichun responded. If you don't do anything wrong, you don't have to be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. You're really careless. Zhong Lei shook his head. Do you know the consequences of killing the consul? Chapter 73:45. Replace me, Di Beichun said. As soon as these words came out, not only Zhong Lei, but even Shui Qin had a look of disbelief. Who gave this guy such courage? Killing the consul, if it was any other place, he would have directly lost his life. But this guy not only didn't think that he would be punished, he even wanted to replace the consul. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Your ability to comfort yourself is quite good. Shui Qin's lips twitched slightly, thinking that she should also learn from this guy. Perhaps if she comforted herself too much, she would be able to remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of her. Thank you, Shui Qin. Where the hell did this weirdo come from? He was so confident and didn't care about what others said at all. You have such a great reputation in the mine. Is this your temperament? Tell the truth and do your best. Di Beichun raised his eyebrows. Isn't this taught by the Devouring or Pavilion? Shui Qin was choked by Di Beichun's words. The Devouring or Pavilion did say so, but how many people really did it? When ordinary people said this, she felt that it was very hypocritical, but when this kid said it, she felt that it was somewhat true. Could it really be like this? After all, this kid was being too honest in front of them. Zhong Lei watched Shui Qin being fooled by Di Beichun. With just a few words, and felt a little helpless. He finally understood that this kid must have his own trump card, otherwise he wouldn't be so confident. In fact, as long as Di Beichun had a brain, he could indeed shirk the responsibility of the whole matter. However, the deputy pavilion master was not as easy to fool as Shui Qin. Whether or not he could fool the deputy pavilion master would depend on Di Beichun himself. Bailey Hongzhuang sat quietly on the side, watching the scene in front of her, and found it quite funny. The console of the devouring or pavilion was quite simple. Among the two people in front of her, Shui Qin was undoubtedly the least complicated. Otherwise, she wouldn't have a confused look at this moment. As for Zhonglei, this person should be a smart person. He saw through it, but did not expose it. At the very least, he did not have any enmity towards them. With Shui Qin's personality, it was impossible for her to achieve her current status in the chaotic immortal realm. The schemes in the chaotic immortal realm could easily kill her at any time. Maybe it was because Du Celestial Domain was closed, so the competition here was not as good as outside. 2 days later, the flying magic tool finally landed. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Li Wuyo got off the flying magic tool, they immediately noticed the magnificent building in front of them. The black building was majestic and magnificent, exuding an astonishing aura. At a glance, it was like a mountain with an imposing aura. The words devouring or pavilion were written on the plaque in the middle of the room. This building was much more magnificent than anything they had seen before. The devouring or pavilion was indeed the #1 organization in the Crossing Immortal region. At this moment, there were some pedestrians coming and going in the devouring or pavilion. When these people saw Zhonglei and Li Wuyo, they nodded to greet them. Then, they looked at Di Beichun and Li Wuyo. Although they were a little confused, no one asked too much. Although there were many pedestrians, compared to the terrifying size of the building, it was still sparse and empty. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the building and was shocked to find that this building was made of devouring spirit stone. Thinking about the difficulty of mining on a daily basis, compared with the amazing size of the building, she sighed. It was really rich and imposing. Chapter 73:46. Normally, the cultivators in Crossing Immortal Domain desired the devouring spirit stone. However, it wasn't easy to obtain it. The Crossing Celestial Realm was slightly easier than the Chaotic Celestial Realm. If they saw the devouring or pavilion in front of them, would they have the intention to move the door back to where they came from? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Even if it was just a door, it would be enough for a cultivator to increase their mental strength by quite a bit. Back then, when he had excavated a mine, he had thought that his wallet was already pretty good. However, compared to this, it was really a drop in the bucket. What? Are you thinking of moving these things away? Zhonglei noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Wuji's gazes and guessed their thoughts. Although it's rare to meet an elementary immortal stage cultivator in Crossing Immortal Domain, it's different in Devouring or Pavilion. With the strength of the two of you, I'm afraid you'll lose your lives before you can even put the things in. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. After she arrived, she noticed that there were a few auras locked onto her. Obviously, there were experts overseeing this place. Shui Qin smiled faintly. When they first came here, they couldn't help but have such thoughts in their hearts. However, after understanding how powerful this place was, they realized how naive this idea was. It would never work. Consul Zhong, Consul Shui, you are here. After entering the hall, a man came up to him. Have you investigated the matter? The matter has been investigated, but it's a little complicated. I think I need to explain it to the Vice Pavilion Master. Hearing this, the man's gaze swept over Di Beichun and his companion, and he seemed to have realized that something was amiss. The Vice Pavilion Lord hasn't returned yet. I'm afraid we'll have to wait for a while. Understood, Zhonglei said. Not long after, Zhonglei said a few words to Shui Qin, and Shui Qin took Di Beichun and left first. Inside the house, Xiao He and Xiao Bai could not help but jump onto the table. Master, are you really not worried? It would be a lie to say that I'm not worried, but in this situation, we might still have a chance. Bailey Hongzhuang stroked Xiao He's head. Her furry head felt really good. If it doesn't work, we'll run, Bailey Hongzhuang said as she looked at Di Beichen. What do you think about our chances of winning? Huang Tiangui's matter is already very clear, and it has nothing to do with us. As for Tang Yuan, he wanted to slaughter innocent stewards. We couldn't stand it anymore, and that's why we intervened. However, the final result still depends on luck. Try your luck? Xiaobai asked in confusion. Let's see how close this vice pavilion master is to Tang Yuan. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. If their relationship is average or not good, our chances of success will be very high. But if their relationship is very good, Xiao Hei swallowed her saliva. It was such a big deal, yet her master wanted to try her luck. It was already 3 days later when Bailey Hongzhuang was called in for questioning. Zhonglei and Xiao Hei did not appear. Instead, an unfamiliar person brought them to see the vice pavilion master. Standing in a large black hall, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that her mental strength was very active. The spirit-devouring stones all around were emitting energy. Even if one did not focus on cultivating here, their mental strength would still increase unconsciously. This was really a good place. If there were enough spirit-devouring stones, there was no better place for cultivators to cultivate in this environment. Mental strength did not seem to be very strong, but it was actually very useful in many areas. Chapter 73-47. Have you seen enough? A cold and dignified voice suddenly sounded from behind. The two of them turned around and noticed a black figure. The man was about 50 years old. Although his face looked slightly weathered, his shrewd gaze and aura did not match his age at all. Even if it was just a face-to-face meeting, the two understood that the other party was very strong. Greetings, Deputy Pavilion Master. The two bowed. The Deputy Pavilion Master just looked at the two indifferently and did not say anything. However, just this gaze alone made the two of them feel a little pressured. This person's strength was definitely above the elementary celestial stage. The devouring or pavilion had an inseparable relationship with the immortal region. The person in charge here was naturally not simple. If he did not have enough strength, he would not be able to sit in this position. I've heard the whole story. You can say it again, the Deputy Pavilion Master said indifferently. Di Beichen was not vague. With Zhonglei's character, he would definitely tell the whole story truthfully. However, he could not guarantee that the other party would not fight for justice for Tang Yuan's death. If he helped Tang Yuan in the process of telling the story, and they did not explain, it would be quite troublesome. Therefore, he recounted the entire incident to him. It was not until after that that the two looked at the Deputy Pavilion Master. I heard that your reputation in the devouring or pavilion is quite high. Everyone hopes that you will be the next consul. The faint voice was like an ordinary question, but it made people feel pressured for no reason. This question was even more thought-provoking. It's just that we get along well, so everyone thinks highly of me. I'm afraid it's not as simple as that. The Deputy Pavilion Master chuckled. If they just thought highly of him, those stewards would not have stood up for him in such an environment. Everyone was selfish. Di Beichen did not explain. The other party was a smart person and must have already made a judgment in his heart. There was no point in explaining. Deputy Pavilion Master, Consul Huang's death has nothing to do with us. As for Consul Tang, his death is indeed related to me. However, I think that even the consul can't kill a steward at will. If he wants to kill me because of this, I have nothing to say. According to what you said, if I really kill you, doesn't that mean that the entire devouring or pavilion is inhumane? I didn't say that, but that's exactly what you mean. The Deputy Pavilion Master coldly snorted. His sharp eyes swept across the faces of the two men before he suddenly said, "Do you think that no one will be able to see through your disguises after you have consumed the disguise pill?" As soon as these words came out, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's expressions changed. They had forgotten that it was difficult for others to see through the disguise pill, but with the Vice Pavilion Master's strength, it would not be a problem for him to see through it. Since he had seen through it, it meant that he knew that they were not the real stewards. Naturally, the crisis had come. What's your purpose for pretending to be mine managers? The Deputy Pavilion Master's aura suddenly burst out and locked onto the two of them. His threatening and forceful words forced them to face it. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. She had been looking around to find a way out. At this moment, the voice of the Vice Pavilion Master sounded again. Don't think about running. You can't run away here. Answer my questions honestly, and you may have a chance to live. Di Beichun calmed down and stared at the Deputy Pavilion Master. I think you should have already found out our identities. Chapter 73:48. At this moment, Di Beichun understood everything. The Vice Pavilion Master had already returned a few days ago. The reason why he hadn't met with them was probably because he had already understood their situation in the past 3 days. Since that was the case, if the other party wanted to kill them, there was no need for them to waste their breath. However, the fact that he kept them alive at such a time meant that he had other motives. The Vice Pavilion Master looked at Di Beichun with admiration. Not bad. If that's the case, ask whatever you want. You've got guts. What makes you think that I'll ask you something? If he didn't have something to ask, the Vice Pavilion Master wouldn't be in the mood to talk to us. While Di Beichun was talking with the Vice Pavilion Master, Bailey Hongzhuang was constantly looking for a way to leave. Since this guy had already seen through them, their chances of survival were very small. Therefore, he had to think of a way to leave this place. Although the other party was strong and they were no match for him, it was not as if they had no chance of escaping. No matter how strict the security here was, Bailey Hongzhuang was still confident that she could take the risk. I like to talk to smart people. The Vice Pavilion Master sat on the chair, casually. I heard that you had a fight with Qing Devil. Hearing that, both Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were surprised. Many people had noticed the fight between them and Qing Devil. However, at that time, he did not use his current appearance. It was indeed not easy for him to find out about this. Most importantly, why was he interested in Qing Devil? You know Qing Devil? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have asked if they didn't know each other. Are you friends with Qing Devil? If that was really the case, then they were simply delivering themselves to his doorstep. Who will be friend with a guy like that? The Deputy Pavilion Leader snorted coldly, as if he was extremely disdainful of Qing Devil. Although you're not as powerful as Qing Devil, it's not bad that you managed to seriously injure him. Bailey Hongzhuang breathed a sigh of relief. It was good that the Deputy Pavilion Master was not friends with the Qing Devil. Otherwise, if she fell into the hands of the Deputy Pavilion Master, it would be equivalent to falling into the hands of the Qing Devil. She would not be reconciled even if she died. First, tell me why you're in the mine. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. After thinking about it, they decided to tell the truth. This guy was obviously not simple. Even if they didn't tell him, it was only a matter of time before he found out. Since that was the case, it was better to be frank and find out what this fellow's objective was. So you want your family to have a place to go after they ascend. The Vice Pavilion Master chuckled. As cultivators, you two really have a lot to think about. There was a faint hint of sarcasm in his words. Generally, when a cultivator cultivated to this level, most of them only cared about themselves. People like them were indeed rare. Promise me one thing, and I'll let you be the consul. What do you think? Hearing this, the two's eyes lit up at first, but then they became vigilant. The Vice Pavilion Leader's promise was definitely not easy to fulfill. If it was something more difficult than reaching the sky, they would undoubtedly be happy for nothing. What do you want us to do, Deputy Pavilion Leader? If we can do it, we won't refuse. Kill Qing Devil's Master. Qing Devil's Master? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. She didn't know that Qing Devil had a master. That old guy has been hiding for many years. But since you have a grudge against Qing Devil, you'll find his master sooner or later.
Chapter 73:49. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the Deputy Pavilion Master. She did not expect that her trip here would involve such a grudge. However, they had a deep grudge against Qing Devil. Though they had never met his master, they were sure to be his enemies as long as they met him. Vice Pavilion Master, since you've already inquired about us, you must already know our strength. Since he is the master of Qing Devil, he must be more powerful than us. It won't be easy for us to kill him. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, with their current strength. It was not easy to kill the Qing Devil, let alone her master. Of course I know that. The Vice Pavilion Master was not surprised at all. I think highly of both of your talents. As long as you have time, it shouldn't be a problem. The two of them didn't know whether they should thank the Vice Pavilion Master for having such a good opinion of them. But the doubt in their hearts grew even stronger. Why don't you do it yourself? Bachan asked. The Deputy Pavilion Master was obviously stronger than them. It would take them a lot of time to resolve this grudge, so they might as well do it themselves. It couldn't be that the Vice Pavilion Master was no match for the other party. So the two of them had to go, right? Of course I have my reasons. The Deputy Pavilion Master's voice turned colder. Just say it. Do you agree or not? I agree. I agree. The two of them agreed without hesitation. Right now, they were meat on the chopping block. If they didn't agree, it would be very difficult for them to leave today. Anyway, they agreed first. The other party also knew that they couldn't kill Qing Devil's master in a short time. As for the rest, they would have to leave this place first. Seeing their reactions, the Deputy Pavilion Master showed a satisfied expression. This is your waste tag. The Vice Pavilion Master casually threw 2 waste tokens into the hands of the 2 men. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the bronze waste tag in her hand, which had a completely different texture. She immediately noticed the 2 words written on it, Consul. 2 consular badges? Huang Tang, that idiot, deserved to die. As for Tang Yuan, he has already died in your hands. If you don't replace him, do you think I'll have to go through the trouble of finding someone else? The Deputy Pavilion Master said matter-of-factly. Listening to this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also speechless. In order to fight for the position of consul, Tang Yuan had even lost his life. The Vice Pavilion Master had casually given the position of consul to them, as if finding another consul was a very troublesome matter. If Tang Yuan knew about this scene, he would probably come back to life from anger. I wonder where Tang Yuan's territory is. These 2 places are very close to each other. Tang Yuan had only switched to this area not long ago. Otherwise, you would have already met him.
Recently, I happen to have plans to manage these 2 territories together. Since you 2 are husband and wife, I'll leave it to you. However, don't rely on this to not be able to complete the mission every season. If you can't complete the mission, you will also be punished, the Deputy Pavilion Master said. Before Bailey Hongzhuang could ask, the Deputy Pavilion Master had already answered all the doubts in their hearts. Suddenly, there was nothing more to say. That's all. You can scram now. The Deputy Pavilion Master waved his hand. He obviously didn't want to waste his breath on them. Therefore, the 2 men could only leave the room with some doubts. This guy seemed to hate trouble. If they continued to ask, once this guy became impatient, they would be in trouble. Chapter 7350. Fortunately, they were now the consuls of the Devouring or Pavilion. Presumably, after leaving this room, they would be able to ask the questions they wanted to know. In the hall, Zhonglei, what are you still doing here? The man walked in front of Zhonglei. Those 2 brats are going to die today. There's no need to come here at all. Zhonglei smiled faintly. I don't know why, but I feel that there might be a glimmer of hope. The deaths of the 2 consuls are inseparable from them. Consul Tang even died directly in their hands. If they could still survive like this, it would be too unbelievable. If you ask me, these 2 guys are simply courting death. They dared to kill Consul Tang in front of you 2. Aren't they courting death? They're indeed very interesting. Zhonglei nodded. It's a pity if they die like this. With the strength of these 2, they're indeed not simple. However, there are many geniuses here, so it's nothing. Zhonglei did not say much. Just as the man said, in other places in the Crossing Immortal Domain, it was rare to see an elementary immortal stage cultivator. But in the Devouring or Pavilion, it was not a big deal. The Devouring or Pavilion had a close relationship with the Immortal Domain. The cultivators here had always been strong. If it wasn't for the fact that Tang Yuan's strength was not strong enough, Bachan and Bachan would have already lost their lives. I think the 2 of them are quite interesting and worthy of appreciation. Maybe the Deputy Pavilion Master will change his mind. How is that possible? The man shook his head. The Deputy Pavilion Master has always been afraid of trouble. However, at this moment, a surprised voice suddenly sounded. Consul Zhong. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Zhong Lei with a smile. She was thinking about who she should talk to later. She didn't expect to see Zhong Lei as soon as she walked into the hall. This was undoubtedly great. The man was only halfway through his words when he was interrupted by Bailey Hongzhuang. Just as he was hesitating about who suddenly appeared, who would have thought that when he turned his head and saw the person clearly, his expression suddenly changed as if he had seen a ghost. How are you still alive? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Why can't we live? Zhong Lei was also surprised when he saw the two of them. However, he quickly understood what was going on. In fact, the reason why he came here today was because he thought that these two people would not be so unlucky. He did not expect that he had guessed correctly. How is this possible? The man looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. It's impossible for them to come out alive. Then your judgment is wrong, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Zhong Lei smiled faintly and patted the man's shoulder. Don't doubt me. Aren't you out in one piece? This is really strange. I've been here for a long time, and this is the first time I've seen someone survive from the hands of a vice pavilion master. Zhong Lei ignored the man's doubts and turned to look at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Let me introduce you. This is Ning Xian, the manager of the hall. This steward is different from stewards like you. The steward of the hall has much more authority than you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood that this was the headquarters of the devouring or pavilion. The manager here was much more powerful than the manager in the mine. Greetings, Manager Ning. Ning Xian nodded slightly. Tell me, how did you survive? Chapter 73:51. Looking at Ning Xian's curious face, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were a little speechless. The deputy pavilion master was such a scary person in this guy's eyes. We just told the whole process of the matter to the vice pavilion lord, and the vice pavilion lord let us out. Di Beichen replied. That's impossible, Ning Xian said without hesitation. Why? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. I think the deputy pavilion master is very good, and he's very reasonable. He's not someone who can't tell right from wrong. After hearing this, Ning Xian felt that something was wrong. After thinking it through, he said, I'm not saying that the deputy pavilion master can't tell right from wrong. According to his understanding, it was not that the deputy pavilion master couldn't tell right from wrong, but he was too lazy to understand the process. Generally speaking, the deputy pavilion master wouldn't listen to the whole story at all. He would just kill all of them to save himself the trouble. Now this guy actually said that the deputy pavilion master was very reasonable after hearing everything. It would be strange if he believed it. However, other than this explanation, he really couldn't find any other explanation. Anyway, these two guys definitely had some ability. Are you going to leave now? Zhong Lei said, I happen to be leaving too. I'll take you with me, but this time you have to go back to the mine by yourself. I want to ask, after becoming a consul, can our clansmen be exempted from mining when they ascend? Di Beichen asked. Zhong Lei stopped and nodded. That's right. What does this have to do with you? Ning Xian asked. Are you still thinking about becoming a consul? We've already become consul. Bailey Hongzhuang waved the waste token in her hand. It's just that the deputy pavilion master didn't tell us anything else, so we don't know what to do next. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Zhong Lei and Ning Xian's expressions became extremely strange. In the blink of an eye, they became consul. Also, I still don't know where this place is. I'll have to trouble you two to guide me. Both of you became consul. At this moment, Zhong Lei also noticed that both of them were holding a waste token in their hands. He was even more surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Consul Huang is dead, and so is Consul Tang. The deputy pavilion master said that he would give these two positions to us. Ning Xian, Zhong Lei, this is too strange. Ning Xian found it hard to believe. Did the two of you cast a spell on the vice pavilion master? With the vice pavilion master's strength, even if we wanted to, we wouldn't be able to do it. Ning Xian thought about it and realized that what he said was indeed very reasonable. The vice pavilion master's strength was much stronger than these two fellows. It was obviously impossible for him to play any tricks. Therefore, the Vice Pavilion Master was the problem. He looked left and right, but did not feel that there was anything outstanding about these two that could make the Vice Pavilion Master look at them differently. Since you have already become consuls, follow me to register. Ning Xin waved his hand and led the way to the front counter. Soon, he took out 2 pieces of paper and filled it in. Ning Xin, name, Ji Chuan. No, Di Baichun. Ning Xin raised his eyebrows. What's going on? Zhonglei was also a bit confused. You have to change your name after becoming consul? It was a disguise before. Now that I'm a consul, I don't have to pretend anymore. Di Baichun's heart skipped a beat, and he had already restored his real appearance. Chapter 73:52. Looking at Di Baichun's sudden change in appearance, Zhonglei and the other man were dumbfounded. What's going on? Ning Xin was a little confused. I've become a consul, and even my appearance has changed? Actually, I'm not Ji Chuan, Li Baicheng said frankly. What do you mean? Zhonglei didn't understand. Then why did you use Ji Chuan's name? Where's the real Ji Chuan? Dead. Ning Xin sized up Di Baicheng. After a while, he said, Don't tell me you killed him. Exactly. What the? At this moment, the two of them finally understood. In that case, you weren't originally from the mine. Now, not only have you killed the leader, you've even revealed your true identity in front of us. You got guts. Ning Xin was so shocked that he didn't catch Di Baicheng at first. We have already discussed this matter with the Vice Pavilion Master, Bailey Hongzhuang said. The Vice Pavilion Master agreed. If you don't agree, why would we be so arrogant? Ning Xin, the sun must have risen from the west. What the Vice Pavilion Master did today was completely out of character. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang also removed her disguise and showed her true face. This made her feel relieved. She had been using Ji Chuan's identity for a long time, and she was worried that she would have to maintain this identity after becoming consul. It would be troublesome in the future. Now that everything had been seen through by the Deputy Pavilion Master, there was no need for them to pretend. It would undoubtedly be more convenient to deal with these matters in the future. Seeing that Di Baicheng had turned into a handsome man, the two of them didn't pay too much attention to it. Originally, Ji Chuan's appearance was ordinary. There was nothing outstanding about him. The only thing special about him was his pair of bright eyes. Now that he had changed his face, they felt that this was Ji Chuan's true appearance. Otherwise, the pair of eyes on Ji Chuan's face would not match. However, when they realized that the other man had turned into a woman, the two of them fell into silence. It wasn't until Ning Xin finished all the procedures that he said, I think the Vice Pavilion Master might have been blinded by lust this time, so he made an unprecedented exception. Keep your voice down. If the deputy singer hears you, I won't save you, Zhonglei reminded her. These words were obviously very effective on Ning Xin. He immediately straightened his face. I'll leave the rest to you. Take the two of them over there and leave some information. In the future, when his people come up here, they can avoid being caught as minors. Zhonglei nodded slightly. I understand. The two of them followed Zhonglei all the way until everything was settled. Only then did they slowly walk out. You don't have to worry. After leaving your information, as long as your clansmen fly up and say your name and confirm it, they will let you go. Sometimes, because the clansmen don't know that you've become a consul, I'm afraid that you'll have to make a few trips yourself. We understand. Thank you. You're welcome. Zhonglei smiled. We're now in the same line of work. We'll have to deal with each other in the future. Thank you so much for this time. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we wouldn't be here. Di Baicheng cupped his hands. If you need anything in the future, don't hesitate to ask. There will always be a chance. Zhonglei smiled. Chapter 73:53. You'll also have to collect your monthly allowance. Now that you become a consul, your allowance is much more generous than before. Zhonglei had a smile on his face. The reason why the steward worked so hard to become a consul was because this example was naturally very tempting. Is it possible to collect these cases together after accumulating them? Di Baicheng asked. That's naturally possible. Zhonglei nodded slightly. Usually, if you don't get your share this month, you can get it next month, but you can't withdraw it in advance. Many people receive it once every 3 months because every 3 months, the consul needs to come and report the situation. Di Beichun frowned slightly. Once every 3 months. For others, this might be a long time, but for them, 3 months was not long at all. If he had to go every 3 months, it would be a little troublesome. Zhonglei seemed to have seen through Di Beichun's thoughts and said, "Sometimes we will go into seclusion, so we might not arrive within 3 months. You can also find a steward to report to us." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. "That works too. Of course. After becoming a consul, your authority will increase correspondingly. You will also have more freedom on normal days. As long as there are no problems in the mine, and the spirit-devouring stones you hand in every time can be passed, then it doesn't matter what you do or where you go. After all, with our current strength, the most important thing is to cultivate and find breakthroughs. The devouring or pavilion usually doesn't care about these things." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was completely relieved. He had been worried that there would be a lot of things to deal with after becoming a consul, but now it seemed that there were even fewer things to deal with as a consul than when he was a manager. When the time came for them to leave, all they had to do was to find a more reliable person in the family to help them hand it over. It was really very convenient. However, it's better for you to bring the steward here for the first time. That way, it'll be easier to confirm. Understood. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang was very grateful. If not for Zhonglei's introduction, it would undoubtedly take a lot of effort for the two of them to understand all of this. It's just a small matter. I'm not too far away from your mind. We'll meet again sooner or later. Under Zhonglei's invitation, the two of them sat on his flying magic tool and flew for a while until they were about to separate. Just as he said, the two of them found that the mine they were in charge of was indeed not too far away. I wonder how Beichen and the others are doing now. Emperor Xiaofeng looked worried. They've been gone for a few days already. Nothing should have happened, right? Judging from my appearance, you should know that Master and the others should be fine. Xiao Xuanzi walked over and gestured for Di Xiaofeng to be at ease. I feel that with Master's power, nothing will happen. I heard that the devouring or pavilion is very powerful in the crossing immortal domain. Gong Jun said slowly, but I also think that boss and the others will definitely be able to get away with it. Then let's wait a few more days. If he still doesn't come back, we'll have to go and take a look. Di Xiaofeng's expression was solemn. Xiao Xuanzi and the others' current situation could only prove that Beichun was still alive, but they couldn't tell if he was suffering or not. Okay, I'll go with you when the time comes. Bali Yin Che replied. At this moment, a faint laugh was heard. Looking for us? Chapter 73:54. Di Xiaofeng and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they heard the familiar voice. They turned around and saw Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang walking in with smiles on their faces. What happened to you guys? Di Xiaofeng was surprised to see that Di Beichen and Shangwan Yingying had returned to their original appearances. We were discovered, so we simply returned to our original appearance. Di Beichen said, "We were discovered." Everyone was shocked. Then the mine is finished. It was not easy for them to find a way to settle their family down in the crossing immortal domain. Once they lost their identity as the mine manager, it would be more troublesome to find another way out. How about the rest of us try to get the position of manager? Di Xiaofeng said, "That won't work." Bai Liyin Che shook his head. Even if you become a manager, it will take a long time to become a consul. That's true. Di Xiaofeng sighed with a hint of disappointment on his face. Pa, Di Beichen slapped the waste token on the table. Xiren's sharp eyes noticed the 2 words written on it, and his eyes lit up. You became a consul in the blink of an eye? These words immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone looked at the waste token on the table and couldn't hide the excitement on their faces. How did you do it? Shangwan Yingying was in disbelief. You became a consul even after your original identity was discovered. You guys are simply unbelievable. It's all a lie. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. They promised the vice pavilion master that they wouldn't tell anyone that they killed Qing Devil's master, so they could only make up a random excuse. However, Xiren and the others didn't suspect anything after hearing this. In such a complicated situation, There was probably no other way to escape other than lying. Moreover, these two people's ability to lie wasn't bad. Now that you're a consul, is everything like what Qianyangyi said? It's done. Di Baichen nodded. Next, we just need to find a familiar steward in the mine. In the future, many things can be handed over to him. For the time being, no one in the family had ascended yet, so this could be done for now. After our clansmen have ascended, we can choose one of them to be the manager of the mine. This way, we can leave the matter to him, and we will be more at ease. Di Baichen's expression was relaxed. This was what he was most worried about when he came to the celestial domain. Now that the biggest problem had been solved, it was equivalent to a stone being lifted from his heart. Father is going to ascend soon. Previously, he was worried about the situation in the crossing immortal domain, so he didn't ascend. Now that everything has been arranged, there is nothing to be afraid of. When Father comes, we can ask him if he is willing to be the steward. Di Xiaofeng chuckled. In the celestial realm, cultivation required a lot of resources, not to mention that being a steward was actually a pretty good job. Compared to other businesses, being a manager was undoubtedly more suitable. Baichen was the consul. Once his father became the steward, his authority would be similar to that of the consul. This is a good idea. Di Baichen nodded. When the time comes, Father can take the cultivation resources of the consul as well. I think his cultivation speed will not be bad. Now in the family, besides Father, Grandfather's cultivation speed is also not slow. Hong Zhuang's father and master's cultivation speed is also very fast. I think it won't be long before they come to the crossing immortal domain. Chapter 73:55. Hong Zhuang, Uncle's cultivation speed is really fast. Shangwan Yingying was pleasantly surprised. My master's cultivation speed is not as fast as theirs. I heard that Uncle is about to break through. I think it won't be long. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. Ever since they came to the upper realm, their cultivation speed was much faster than when they were in the lower realm. The D family's origin energy was rich to begin with. Coupled with the cultivation resources and the fruits they brought back, their origin energy had improved by leaps and bounds. According to their judgment, it wouldn't be long before everyone broke through. Then what are your plans now? Di Xiaofeng asked. Now that they had achieved their goal of coming to the crossing immortal realm, there seemed to be nothing else to do. We plan to go to the immortal realm next. Di Baichen looked thoughtful. Before we go, we'd better go back to Shiyin City. I don't know how Yinju and Zhongli are doing now. If we're going to the immortal realm, we'd better go with them. There were many cultivators in the immortal realm. It was much larger than the chaotic immortal realm. If they went separately, it wouldn't be easy to find the two of them. However, before that, we have to arrange everything properly. Let's wait until Father ascends. Di Baichen smiled faintly. They had to go to the immortal realm sooner or later. Now that they had been delayed in the crossing immortal realm for some time, they didn't have to worry about it. The crossing immortal realm was very important to the whole family. They had to arrange everything properly so that they could leave with peace of mind. You're right. Let's stay here for now. Di Xiaofeng nodded in agreement. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen focused on cultivation. They had broken through to the elementary immortal realm for some time. After fighting with the Qing devil last time, they realized the gap between them. According to the news they heard, the Qing devil's strength had weakened after he came back. He was still in the process of recovery. They were already weak when they fought with the Qing devil last time. Once the Qing devil recovered his strength, they would be in a worse situation. Moreover, judging from the current situation, the cultivators of the immortal domain were not weak. Since they were going to the celestial realm, increasing their strength was also the most important thing. Otherwise, if they were to become existences at the bottom, wouldn't they be bullied by others? As for martial techniques and the like, I can only think of a way after I reach the immortal domain. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. A cultivator of the elementary celestial stage should be equipped with a stronger martial technique. Only then would they be able to unleash the strongest combat power. Fortunately, there were also sects in the celestial realm. After going to the celestial realm and looking for opportunities, he should be able to find a place to study. Apart from that, we also need to understand the realms above the elementary immortal stage. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Until now, they didn't even know much about the situation after the elementary celestial stage. If we had known earlier, we would have asked Zhong Lei properly when we met him earlier. He's not far away from a place. It's convenient if we want to ask him. Di Beichun smiled faintly, but I think it's better to ask the deputy pavilion leader. Zhong Lei's strength was not much stronger than theirs. They happened to have to take some people to the devouring or pavilion. When they were not there in the future, they could ask Lei Jun to deal with it. As for why they didn't ask Zhou Su to deal with it, this guy was too impatient. It was fine if he was like this in the mine. If he was like this in the devouring or pavilion, they would not be able to protect him once he got into trouble. Chapter 73:56. Hearing Di Beichun's suggestion, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, a trace of doubt flashing in her eyes. The Vice Pavilion Master is extremely powerful. If we ask him, he will naturally know more. However, he might not pay attention to us. From the last contact and Ning Xian's reaction, the Vice Pavilion Master probably didn't care about people at all. It was already very difficult for the two of them to obtain the identity of Consort from the Vice Pavilion Master. If they went to ask about other things and angered the Vice Pavilion Master, it would be troublesome. Since he wants us to kill Qing Devil's Master, he naturally has to tell us more. As long as we don't directly state our intentions, we can talk about other things first, and then ask about them later. Before that, we'd better get some information from Ning Xian. The corners of Di Beichun's lips curled up slightly. It was obvious that he already had an idea. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little suspicious, but she did not object. Devouring or pavilion. Coming here again, the two of them were no longer as worried as before. Instead, they were able to enjoy the scenery around them very calmly. The entire devouring or pavilion was located on the surface of the sea. The winding corridors twisted and turned hundreds of times. The white rocks were carefully polished and looked very exquisite. The black building in the center was like a crouching flood beast, majestic and imposing. Back then, due to the urgency of the situation, his mind was filled with thoughts of how to escape, so he didn't pay too much attention to it. This time, after taking a closer look, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that there was a very powerful restriction here. The waves outside were turbulent, but here it was calm and peaceful. That's a good move indeed. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Is this the devouring or pavilion? It's so spectacular. Zhou Su stood in the middle of the road and looked at the scenery around him. His face was full of amazement. Originally, I only heard that the devouring or pavilion is very amazing. Even the buildings there are not comparable to other places, but I have never seen it before, so I have no idea. This time, after seeing it with his own eyes, he finally understood how magnificent it was. Although it wasn't gorgeous, this kind of heaviness made it even more memorable. I can guarantee that there are many experts here. Looking at Zhou Su's appearance, as if it was his first time entering the city, Bailey Hongzhuang felt helpless. This guy had only been here for a short while, but he had already attracted a lot of attention. I'm starting to regret bringing you here, Di Beichun said. Originally, they just planned to bring Lei Jun over to understand the itinerary, and for the time being, they could leave the arrangements to him. They didn't think that after Zhou Su knew about this matter, he would strongly insist on coming. The two people couldn't resist his coaxing and pestering, and finally brought him here. They just didn't expect that after coming here, it would be like this, don't be like that. Zhou Su was unaware of the gazes around him. This gate is made of spirit-swallowing stone. Can we take the opportunity to dig a little? Thinking about it, they didn't have much cultivation resources each month. If he could deduct a little from this, perhaps his cultivation would improve. There were too few cultivation resources, and his strength had not been able to make any progress. If you want to dig this door away, we'll have to see how many lives you have. A disdainful voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this voice, Zhou Su couldn't help but shudder, and an awkward smile appeared on his face. I just said it casually, don't take it seriously, don't take it seriously. Di Beichun noticed that the person who came was Ning Xian, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Steward Ning, are you here to get this month's share? Chapter 73:57. Di Beichun nodded. We would like to receive this month's quota, and at the same time, we would like to record the names of these two stewards. Ning Xian immediately understood what he meant. It could be seen that there were many people who did this among the consuls. You have to find a reliable consul to ask for help. Why did you find this guy? Ning Xian looked at Zhou Su with disgust. Although there were many people who wanted to steal from the devouring or pavilion, there were not many who were as exaggerated as this guy. How am I unreliable? Zhou Su was somewhat unconvinced. Get a mirror and take a good look at yourself. You're just short of writing the word lack of money on your face. Zhou Su was at a loss for words. What he said really made some sense. He's always been like that. He doesn't think too much about it, Di Beichun said. Ning Xian nodded slightly and didn't say much about this issue. This matter is easy to handle. I'll help you take note of it. You know the place to collect the rations. Understood. Di Beichun and Ning Xian pulled Ning Xian to the side after they sent Zhou Su and Zhou Su to get their rations. Looking at the mysterious appearance of the two, Ning Xian couldn't help but frown. What? Is there something you need from me? We want to ask you something. What is it? Have you ever heard of the Qing devil? Ning Xian's originally calm face couldn't help but change a little. What's wrong? Why are you asking this all of a sudden? We have a grudge against Qing devil, but we don't know much about him, so we want to ask. Go and find out for yourself. I'm still busy here. Ning Xian glanced at the two of them, then turned and walked into the hall. These two guys definitely wanted to get some information from him. Why did they suddenly talk about Qing devil? Hey, wait a minute. Bailey Hongzhuang pulled Ning Xian back and casually took out a fruit. Chief Steward Ning, this is a fruit that we specially brought to show our filial piety to you. Would you like to try it? Fruit? Ning Xian was about to complain, but when he saw the fruit in front of him, he couldn't bring himself to say anything. That was because this fruit was definitely not ordinary. What kind of fruit is this? Ning Xian's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He had followed the deputy pavilion master for many years and had seen many good things. Ordinary things could not enter his eyes, but he had never seen this kind of fruit before. We don't know what this fruit is called, but after consuming it, it will help increase one's cultivation. As soon as she said this, Ning Xian unconsciously licked his lips. This fruit can improve one's cultivation? Why would we lie to you about this? You'll know when you taste it. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was light and sincere. From Huang Tingui's reaction back then, it could be seen that this fruit was very attractive to cultivators in the elementary immortal stage. Even though Ning Xian had seen many good things, anything that could help increase one's strength was extremely tempting to cultivators. Without waiting for Ning Xian to speak, she directly stuffed the fruit into his hand. Seeing this, Ning Xian no longer refused and accepted the fruit. The fruit was not big, so Ning Xian tasted it directly. The sweetness in his mouth made him feel refreshed, and the energy that was released next made him extremely surprised. The energy in this fruit is very pure. Not bad. The effect of this fruit is very good. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. If Chief Steward Ning is not busy, why don't we have a small gathering tonight? In addition to this fruit, I have 2 more with better effects. Chapter 73:59. Under the flattery of Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang, Ning Xian was also very happy. Not to mention that the wine and dishes tasted very good. He also felt that this wine was much better than the ones he had tasted before. What kind of wine is this? The smell is so intoxicating. After 3 rounds of wine, Ning Xian's cheeks were red and his eyes were blurred. He looked at the wine cup in his hand with curiosity. This is the drunk peach blossom that we brewed ourselves. If Steward Ning wishes, why don't you bring some back later? Bailey Hongzhuang's cheeks were also flushed red. Her fair face was tinged with a faint pink color, making her look even more delicate and charming. She exuded a drunken charm. Ning Xian nodded repeatedly. That would be great. Thank you. Steward Ning is too polite. You've followed the vice pavilion master for many years. The 2 of us still rely on your guidance. Hearing the words deputy pavilion master, Ning Xian immediately nodded. Of course, to follow the deputy pavilion master, there are a lot of things to pay attention to. If you accidentally break a taboo, then no one can save you. What's the taboo? Baichin asked. Ning Xian's expression changed. He squinted at the two of them. Why are you asking me this? Speak. He slammed the table, and his expression became extremely serious. Are you guys trying to take advantage of this opportunity to harm the Deputy Pavilion Master? Steward Ning, you think too much. We just want to know the Deputy Pavilion Master's preferences so that we can be more careful in the future. Baichin said. That's more like it. Ning Xian immediately relaxed. You guys, you're far from qualified to harm the Deputy Pavilion Master. Qing Devil. Bailey Hongzhuang reminded him faintly. Don't mention the name Qing Devil casually. If you anger the Deputy Pavilion Leader, you will suffer. Ning Xian burped and said drunkenly. Why is that? In fact, Qing Devil has nothing to do with the Deputy Pavilion Head, but his master is related to the Deputy Pavilion Head. Speaking of which, Qing Ling is the Vice Pavilion Lord's brother-in-law. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Baichin looked at each other with strange expressions. It had never occurred to them that Qing Devil's master and the Deputy Pavilion Head would have such a relationship. Brother-in-law, that was a very close relationship. Then, this is the Vice Pavilion Master's family. Why can't I mention it? Bailey Hongzhuang looked puzzled. That's something you don't know. Ning Xian waved his hand. What family? Their situation is more like enemies. Back then, this Vice Pavilion Master's younger sister was also a beauty, but she fell into Qing Ling's hands. In fact, in the immortal realms, Qing Ling was also considered a young talent. He had already made a good reputation for himself at such a young age. Just think about the scene at that time. A hero and a beauty, they are a match made in heaven. But I didn't expect that good things didn't last long. Qing Ling turned out to be a playboy and a troublemaker. Ning Xian slapped the table, his face full of anger. In my opinion, the Vice Pavilion Master's younger sister is a peerless beauty. This guy is really a jerk. How could he find another woman outside? He is so hateful. Tell me, this kind of man should be hacked to death. Looking at Ning Xian's angry face, his eyes red, Bailey Hongzhuang was secretly surprised. He looked just like the Vice Pavilion Master's little sister that he had always loved. It shouldn't be so explosive. Chapter 7360. Hateful indeed. He's not human. Seeing that Baichin and Bailey Hongzhuang were on his side, Ning Xian seemed to have found a way to vent his anger. He immediately spilled the beans. It's one thing for that guy to find another woman outside, but he actually provoked a lot of enemies. At that time, his enemies came to seek revenge. He went out to fool around with another woman, but the assistant pavilion leader's sister was at home. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart thumped, and she understood what was going to happen next. If what Ning Xian said was true, then the assistant pavilion leader and Qing Ling had a huge feud. His own sister was treated in such a manner. If it were anyone else, they would not let it go so easily. Then, why didn't the assistant pavilion leader kill Qing Ling? Was it because he was too powerful? Qing Ling was indeed powerful, but the assistant pavilion leader might have been able to deal with him. However, the assistant pavilion leader's sister, Ning Xian, sighed. He looked upset and regretful. She still missed Qing Ling. Before she died, she even asked the assistant pavilion leader to promise her not to kill Qing Ling. Although the assistant pavilion leader didn't agree, it was her only wish before she died. In the end, he had no choice but to agree. It's such a pity that Qing Ling let such a good lady down. Bailey Hongzhuang looked regretful. Perhaps it was because this lady was too kind that the assistant pavilion leader hated her and regretted it even more. He regretted that he didn't choose the right person to marry her to such a person. He also hated that he couldn't kill Qing Ling with his own hands. That's right. When Ning Xian saw that there was someone who shared the same hatred as him, he became even more excited. Bastards like that should die early. Is he still alive? Bailey Hongzhuang asked, pretending not to know. He's still alive. Ning Xian rolled his eyes. Whenever I think about how he's still free and unfettered, I feel unhappy. Can the assistant pavilion leader be at ease? Of course not. Ning Xian shook his head. It's just that the assistant pavilion leader kept his promise and couldn't do anything to Qing Ling. The assistant pavilion leader killed all the people who killed Mississippi. Even Qing Ling's woman was killed by him. He didn't do anything to Qing Ling. Although the assistant pavilion leader doesn't usually talk about this, I know that he's still holding a grudge. I'm sure he's looking forward to someone killing Qing Ling. If the assistant pavilion leader can't do it himself, he can get someone else to do it. Bailey Hongzhuang probingly. The vice pavilion master is also a stubborn person. He won't do what he promised the young mistress. However, you're right. All these years, the vice pavilion master has been more polite to anyone who has a grudge against Qing Ling. However, those guys were so useless that they hadn't killed Qing Ling yet. Qing Devil is Qing Ling's disciple, so the assistant pavilion leader hates him. That's why I told you not to mention Qing Devil so casually. As he spoke, Ning Xian realized that something was wrong. He couldn't help but frown. That's not right. Why did you bring up Qing Devil all of a sudden? This we thought. Ning Xian was already drunk. Steward Ning. Bailey Hongzhuang called out softly. Seeing that Ning Xian showed no signs of waking up, she knew that he was really drunk and relaxed a little. Even if Ning Xian woke up tomorrow and remembered what happened today, they could just brush him off. Chapter 7361. Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. They were worried that this might be a trap. Fortunately, they now knew that everything was true. They had the same enemy as the deputy pavilion master, so there was no need to worry too much. At the very least, it was safe for the family members to come here. Wife, are you sure that all of this is real? Di Beichen asked via voice transmission. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Don't worry, I drugged the wine. He must be telling the truth. That's good. Di Beichen also looked relieved. Vice Pavilion Master, you're quite interesting. You can't do it yourself, so you're hoping for others to do it. If the two of us hadn't taken advantage of this, we wouldn't have been able to escape unscathed last time. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. This was also their good luck. With our current cultivation, we can't even deal with the Qing Devil, let alone Qing Ling. From this, we can see how much Vice Pavilion Master hates Qing Ling otherwise. He wouldn't have treated us like this. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The Vice Pavilion Master's younger sister is also a pitiful person. It's normal for him to have such grievances. Qing Devil was already very abominable. Unexpectedly, his master was even more abominable. The two of them were indeed master and disciple. Since they were destined to be rivals, they had to make plans. Once they killed Qing Devil, Qing Ling would not sit back and do nothing. It seems that you have a lot of worries. At this moment, a cold voice sounded from the corner of the room. You've heard that someone close to me is here. If you have any questions, why don't you ask me directly? Upon hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly turned around and saw that the deputy pavilion master had appeared in the room. In an instant, the pressure came crushing down, and even breathing became difficult. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's expressions changed. They had only invited Ning Xian for a meal today. They didn't expect that the vice pavilion master would also come after hearing the news. This was really too shocking. Thinking about it, the vice pavilion master already knew the purpose of their investigation. He could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Vice pavilion master, it's not what you think. It's not what I think. The vice pavilion master raised his eyebrows. Then what is it? We just happened to run into Steward Ning today, so we wanted to get drunk and get closer. Di Beichen stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile on his face. The vice pavilion master glanced at his little action and said, Get closer? Why is it that I'm the one who's trying to get closer to her? Steward Ning drank too much. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly said, Drank too much? The deputy pavilion master chuckled with a hint of mockery in his laughter. Obviously, he had already seen through these little tricks. That's right. He can't control what he's saying when he's drunk. Fortunately, Ning Xian was drunk. If he knew that the two of them had pushed all the blame to him, he would probably wake up immediately. Vice Pavilion Master, actually, we share the same hatred against a common enemy. Although we didn't know that Qing Ling was such a despicable person, we did know how despicable Qing Mo was. We have to get rid of this kind of guy as soon as possible so that others won't be harmed. Don't worry. Once we become stronger, we'll definitely kill the two of them. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Chapter 7362. There must be a lot of people who want to kill this kind of people. Our strength is limited now, but as long as the others don't kill them, the two of us will do our best to kill them. How could Di Beichen not understand that this was the most important thing for the Deputy Pavilion Master? Ning Xian had already said that the Deputy Pavilion Master would always be very lenient towards anyone who had a grudge against Qing Ling. Thinking about it, although the current situation was not very good, there was still a chance to ease it. The Vice Pavilion Master looked at the two sly fellows in front of him and found it funny. You guys are quite capable, aren't you? You're actually saying that you're on my side against a common enemy? Of course, we can't be compared to the Vice Pavilion Master. We share a common enemy. However, I believe that you think highly of us. Otherwise, you wouldn't believe that we have the ability to kill Qing Ling, right? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had also thrown caution to the wind. The Deputy Pavilion Master's cultivation was much higher than theirs. If they were to fight at this moment, the two of them would definitely not be at an advantage. Most importantly, the matter that they had worked so hard to achieve would be troublesome. The Vice Pavilion Master looked at the two of them and found it funny. You two are pretty smart. You've heard a lot about me from Ning Xian, so you've already learned how to climb up a pole? What are you talking about? We're speaking our true thoughts. True thoughts? The Vice Pavilion Master snorted coldly. It's just that today has already come to this, so it's fine. Originally, I was a little worried that the two of you were too stupid and would be easily deceived, wasting the opportunity one gave you. Now, it seems that you aren't too stupid. At least you still have some brains. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood that the Deputy Pavilion Master had already guessed that they would do this. If they did not come, the Vice Pavilion Master would be disappointed. Of course, we won't let you down, Di Beichen said. I hope so. The Vice Pavilion Master sneered. If he has some brains, at least he has some hope of dealing with it. It's not that I want to discourage you, but if you have to go through so much trouble to deal with a Qing devil, you're still far from being able to deal with his master. Yes, we will work hard. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. As long as we have more time, I believe there will be hope. I hope so. The Deputy Pavilion Master sighed. He put his hands behind his back and turned to look at the moon outside the window. Many people have said this to me over the years, but most of them are no longer around. She's gone. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a chill in her heart. If he was gone, then his life would be gone as well. Let me remind you that you'd better not talk about your relationship with me when you arrive in the immortal realm. Otherwise, before you have the chance to look for the Qing devil, his master will come to you on his own accord. How dare Qing Ling target you? He knows that he's no match for me, but he can't swallow the resentment in his heart all these years, so he'll deal with any cultivator who attacks him ruthlessly. Logically speaking, he shouldn't know, right? Maybe he has arranged for someone else to be by my side. The Deputy Pavilion Master looked indifferent and said this very casually. Obviously, he did not take it to heart at all. However, for Di Beichen, this was no doubt a bolt from the blue. This meant that Qing Devil and the others might have known what they were doing now. Trouble would come after they arrived in the immortal realm. Chapter 7363. Vice Pavilion Master, you're joking, right? Bailey Hongzhuang asked tentatively. If that was the case, then things would be really troublesome. I'm not in the mood to joke. Since we're going to deal with them, we naturally have to be prepared. If you fail miserably before it's your turn to look for him, wouldn't you be letting down your lofty ambitions? The Vice Pavilion Master's voice was full of ridicule, as if he had seen through Bailey Hongzhuang's trick. Thank you, Vice Pavilion Master, for your advice. Di Beichen was not annoyed and bowed to express his gratitude. Hearing this, the Vice Pavilion Master looked at Di Beichen in a higher light. This kid was definitely not ordinary. When he first saw these two people, he felt that they were very capable and were somewhat different from ordinary people. Of course, the most important thing was that Di Beichen's contract beast was very powerful. Even he could not tell what species it was, so he must have some tricks up his sleeve. Now it seemed that this kid was quite capable to be able to do this. As for Bailey Hongzhuang, her alchemy skills were probably very good. She could actually make Ning Xin tell the truth, so she was quite capable. Ning Xin had followed him for many years, and there were many people who wanted to get information out of him, but none of them succeeded. Presumably, even Ning Xin himself could not believe it. Forget it. Good luck to you. The Vice Pavilion Master dropped these words and turned to walk outside. Vice Pavilion Master, Steward Ning, since you invited him out, you naturally have to send him back. The two looked at the completely drunk Ning Xin and could only watch as the Vice Pavilion Master left. Steward Ning is already so drunk. I'm afraid he won't be able to go back tonight. Why don't we let him sleep in the restaurant for the night and go back tomorrow? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Di Baichen nodded. Okay, you go rest first. I'll send him back to his room and then return. Clang. Hearing the movement from the room next door, Di Baichen opened the door and saw Zhou Su and Lei Jun standing in the room with stunned faces, and Ning Xin, who had just woken up, was sitting on the bed. Steward Ning, you're awake. Di Baichen said. Ning? Manager Ning? Only then did Zhou Su notice that the one lying on the bed was Manager Ning. The teacup on the floor was actually knocked out by him. Ning Xin nodded. He was still a little confused. It was not until he woke up that he realized what had happened last night. His eyes widened. I was drunk last night? You were drunk last night, and we didn't know where you were staying, so we arranged for you to sleep in the inn. Ning Xin patted his head with a look of horror. I'm actually drunk? Did I say anything I shouldn't have? No, Steward Ning fell asleep directly after he got drunk. He didn't go crazy. Hearing this, he was slightly relieved, but he still had some doubts in his heart. Usually, there were many people who wanted to get him drunk, but in fact, he was not drunk even after 1,000 cups, so he was not worried at all. However, this time, he was really drunk. It was really hard to believe. Steward Ning, these are the fruits you put on the table last night. I saw that you were drunk, so I kept them first. Here you are. Seeing the two fruits, Ning Xin immediately threw the annoyance in his heart aside, and a happy smile appeared on his face. So the fruits are here? I thought I had already put them away. Haha, thank you very much. This is what I should do. We still have to thank Steward Ning for taking care of us. Chapter 73-64. Ning Xin felt a little weird when he heard the word take care of, but he didn't think too much about it, because he was thinking about the fruit. At this time, Lei Jun couldn't help but ask in a low voice, what the hell is going on? Why did Steward Ning sleep in our room? Anyway, you wouldn't have come back last night, so this room was empty. It just so happened that Steward Ning was drunk, so I let him sleep here for the night. Di Baichen replied. How do you know we won't come back? Zhou Su asked in surprise. Di Baichen raised his eyebrows. Will you come back last night? Zhou Su blushed. Last night, they just wanted to find a beautiful girl and didn't want to come back. Ning Xin got up and went to the devouring or pavilion immediately. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen followed him. Are you going to find the deputy pavilion leader? We have something to ask the deputy pavilion leader, Di Baichen said. What's the matter? Ning Xin couldn't help asking. The deputy pavilion leader doesn't like to be disturbed. If it's not a big deal, you better not bother him. We want to ask him something about cultivation. I see. Ning Xin understood. The deputy pavilion leader has a high status, and his understanding of cultivation is not comparable to ordinary people. If you can get his guidance, you will make a lot of progress. Has the deputy pavilion leader ever given you any guidance? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Sometimes he will give me some guidance. Otherwise, with my aptitude, I can't have such achievements. Steward Ning smiled. Since you also have a grudge against Qing Devil, the deputy pavilion leader won't mind giving you some guidance. Hearing this, Di Baichen's eyes changed slightly. Judging from Ning Xin's expression when he got up this morning, he should have forgotten what happened last night. In fact, they didn't tell him about their grudge against Qing Devil from the beginning to the end. But he not only saw it, but also was very sure. Maybe he also came last night with the intention of inquiring about it, but he didn't expect Hong Zhuang's medicine to be strong enough, so he fell into her trap. Ning Xin smiled. The deputy pavilion leader is not so terrible. You are young and promising. Since he appreciates you, he must be willing to give you some guidance. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows slightly raised. Ning, The deputy pavilion master looked at the two people who had reappeared, and there was a hint of laziness between his brows. 2. Not only that, even the increase of my origin power has become very slow, so I would like to ask Vice Pavilion Master about the cultivation method after the elementary celestial stage. After cultivating for so long, they had also noticed some differences. Although it was a completely new realm after the elementary celestial stage, and the speed of cultivation would definitely be incomparable to before, it had been some time since they had broken through. Not only did they not feel that they were on the verge of breaking through, but the effects of their cultivation had become extremely slow. There must be something wrong with this. Chapter 7365. Regarding this question, they had also asked Zhou Su and the others, but everyone was not very clear about the situation, so they could only place this idea on the deputy pavilion master. You don't know how to cultivate after the elementary celestial realm? The vice pavilion master looked very surprised. So you didn't temper yourself when you fought with Qing Devil? Temper? Di Baichen heard the key point, but he still shook his head. No. The vice pavilion master suddenly chuckled. So that's how it is. It seems that you do have some hope. What do you mean? Bailey Hongzhuang was also puzzled. They had never heard of this tempering before. You should know that after entering the elementary celestial realm, you're considered an immortal. There must be some differences between you and mortals, right? Yes. Then do you know what the differences are? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen looked at each other and shook their heads. They only knew that after breaking through to the elementary celestial realm, their cultivation was much stronger than before, but they didn't know the differences. One of the most important reasons why mortals are mortals is their lifespan. Cultivators go against the heavens and change their fates. The stronger you are, the longer your lifespan. Below the elementary celestial realm, your lifespan is less than 800 years. Above the elementary celestial realm, as you break through, you'll become immortal. Immortal? Di Baichen was shocked. He always knew that a cultivator's lifespan would increase with the improvement of his strength. Immortality had always been a thought, but he didn't expect it to be so close. Indeed, the elementary celestial realm is divided into 9 grades. The first grade trains the body roughly. After the second grade, it starts to temper the hands, feet, internal organs, head, and the whole body. Experts above the elementary celestial realm can use their hands and feet as weapons, and their hardness is far beyond that of ordinary bodies. After all the tempering, they'll be real immortals. Now, they're only half immortals, but they're qualified to cultivate. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard this, she also understood. She never knew that after the elementary celestial stage, there would be such a cultivation. When they were with Granny Hua, she did not mention this. She only thought that they were still quite far away from breaking through to the elementary celestial stage, so she did not teach them. It turned out that the cultivation method above the elementary celestial stage was completely different, so they had made very little progress in this period of time. I can see that your fleshly bodies are much stronger than ordinary cultivators who have just broken through to the elementary immortal stage. It can be seen that you have consciously tempered your fleshly bodies before. Indeed, however, there's still quite a gap between it and the true tempering of the elementary immortal realm. That might not be the case. The deputy pavilion master smiled faintly. If you didn't refine your body well, you wouldn't have been able to fight with Qing Devil. After all, his cultivation is higher than yours. He just came back from the ancient battlefield not long ago. His strength has decreased, which is why he is like this. That's true. The deputy pavilion master nodded. It said that he possessed someone else's body. Therefore, even if his cultivation is still there, this new body still needs to be tempered again. Therefore, you have to seize this opportunity. So his body needs to be tempered again. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. It seemed that Qing Devil's cultivation was much weaker than before. I can see that he's at least at the second grade, so you don't have to belittle yourselves. Chapter 7366. He's not as good as you in terms of combat power when you're at the same cultivation level. The Vice Pavilion Master's words affirmed Di Baichen's confidence. However, he was not happy about it. Qingling would not wait for him to finish his cultivation. It was meaningless to say that he would win when he was at the same cultivation level. Unless he could catch up with Qing Ling's cultivation level, it was just empty talk. We'll catch up with him as soon as possible, Di Beichen said. The Vice Pavilion Master nodded with a smile. You've been cultivating for a much shorter time than Qing Devil. Maybe you can kill Qing Ling one day. He had already seen that Di Beichen and Di Beichen did not look young. They were really young. When Qing Devil made a name for himself in the immortal region, everyone called him a genius. However, he was much weaker than Di Beichen and Qing Ling presumably. As long as they spent a little more time, these two people would definitely make a good name for themselves in the immortal realm. You just entered the elementary celestial stage, so you've built a foundation for your physical strength. In the past, you've only been cultivating origin energy. Now, you could try using origin energy to cover your body and temper it. It'll bring unexpected results. Thank you for your advice, Vice Pavilion Master. Both of them cupped their hands and thanked him. With this cultivation method, they had a direction for their cultivation. They had never thought that their cultivation method would be different after they broke through to the elementary celestial stage. Now that they thought about it, they've been making no progress in their cultivation and had wasted a lot of time. Although you haven't made much progress in your cultivation level, you've accumulated origin energy. Although it's a little slow, it's not without benefits, the Vice Pavilion Master reminded them. Stabilizing your cultivation level will also be of great help to you. We understand. The Vice Pavilion Master nodded slightly. These two had great potential. Spend more time on your cultivation. Don't worry too much about other things. Your strength is the foundation. Vice Pavilion Master, are you talking about the mine? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and asked. The Vice Pavilion Master glanced at him and said, Didn't you bring 2 stewards with you? Do you want me to think that you're concerned about the mine? Your subordinate doesn't dare. Di Beichen cupped his hands. He knew that this guy was a sly old fox. It seemed like he didn't know anything, but in fact, he knew everything. All right, we have achieved our goal. Let's not stay here any longer. The Deputy Pavilion Master waved his hand and sat down on a soft couch. However, the two of them had no intention of leaving. Deputy Pavilion Head, you've seen how powerful Qing Devil is. We suffered a loss when we fought with him last time. Otherwise, we wouldn't have ended up like this. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the Vice Pavilion Master with a smile. The martial skills of the elementary immortal stage are much more powerful, and we are currently in the crossing immortal domain. I'm afraid we won't be able to go to the immortal domain for a while. This martial skill is really a big problem. If Qing Devil comes again, we'll be outclassed. Di Beichen looked bitter. Seeing the two of them echoing each other, the Vice Pavilion Master knew clearly that these two guys were getting bolder and bolder. How dare they try to take advantage of him now? If you want to get the martial skills from me, you have to pay a price, right? The Vice Pavilion Master supported his head with one hand and looked at them with a faint smile. You want to get something from me for nothing? That's something that has never happened before. Chapter 7367. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were overjoyed when they heard the Vice Pavilion Master's words. Since he did not reject them directly, it meant that there was hope. They did not understand the situation in the immortal region, and before everything was settled, they could not leave directly. Learning a martial technique was the most important thing at the moment. Vice Pavilion Master, you know our situation. With your identity and status, I'm afraid we don't have anything that you want. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen, who took out several fruits and placed them on the Vice Pavilion Master's table. After thinking about it, I'm afraid this is the only thing that we have that might be useful to you. According to their judgment, the Vice Pavilion Master's cultivation was at least rank 5. Although they had some cultivation resources, the Vice Pavilion Master clearly did not need them. As for these fruits, they were very helpful in improving a cultivator's strength. Fox and the others relied on these fruits to improve their cultivation, but they did not know if the cultivation methods of humans and beasts were different after the elementary immortal realm. However, as long as it was effective, it would definitely be effective for the Vice Pavilion Master. The Vice Pavilion Master looked at the fruits in front of him. He remembered that Ning Xin was deceived by these fruits and fell into a trap yesterday. He picked up one of the fruits and tasted it. At that moment, his eyes lit up. It was indeed good stuff. What do you think? Di Baichen asked. This is good. The Vice Pavilion Master nodded. Then his gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. What drug did you give Ning Xin yesterday? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled and said instinctively, I didn't drug him. Don't deny it. The Vice Pavilion Master raised his hand. Ning Xin has never fallen into a trap all these years. Yesterday, he fell into your hands. If he didn't have some tricks up his sleeve, no one would believe him. That is that. What happened last night is in the past. I won't hold it against you. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the Vice Pavilion Master. After confirming that there was no anger on his face, she took out a bottle of medicine. This is it. The Vice Pavilion Master took the medicine bottle. The white liquid looked like ordinary water. Even after opening the bottle, there was still no smell. What is this? This potion will make it easier for people to get drunk after it is put into wine. Moreover, I added some medicinal herbs that are similar to the truth pill, so the words of those who have taken it will definitely be the truth. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't hide anything and told him the whole story. She had only concocted the potion on the spur of the moment, because that was the only way to ensure that Ning Xin was telling the truth. After the Vice Pavilion Master took a closer look, he asked, Are your alchemy skills very high? No. Prepare a few more bottles of this stuff for me, and this martial skill will be yours. The Vice Pavilion Master raised his hand, and 2 martial skill books appeared on the table. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Just as she was about to take the martial skill, she realized that the assistant pavilion leader had taken it back. Come and get it when it's ready. Bailey Hongzhuang pursed her lips. The assistant pavilion master was really stingy. Was he afraid that she would go back on her word? Yes. After leaving the main hall, the 2 of them were in a good mood. They had gained a lot from today's trip. Although I didn't see what kind of martial arts it was, the Vice Pavilion Lord's technique shouldn't be bad. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. She felt that the Vice Pavilion Lord wasn't as hard to get along with as everyone said. Chapter 7368. Is it difficult to make this potion? Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with concern. I saw you spend a lot of time making it the other day. It's not difficult. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I haven't made this potion since I came to the chaotic immortal realm, so I spent some time studying it in the beginning. Now I just need to make it according to the same ratio. However, I don't have many medicinal herbs left. I'm afraid we have to buy some more. There are many medicinal herb shops on this street. Let's go. Di Baichen smiled. Ning Xin had been concerned about the result since the 2 of them went in. When he saw the 2 of them walking out talking and laughing, he knew that the result was good, so he was relieved. The 2 of them were safe and sound, which meant that he wouldn't be punished too severely by the deputy pavilion leader, right? However, it didn't take long for Ning Xin to realize that he was too optimistic. Deputy Pavilion Leader, you're treating us differently. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang brought the potion over. The Deputy Pavilion Leader gave the 2 martial arts books to the 2 of them. One was a palm technique, the other was a sword technique. In addition, there was an introduction to cultivation. Bailey Hongzhuang flipped through a few pages and found that there were some notes on it. She guessed that it was written by the Deputy Pavilion Leader. Even if she only read a few parts, she could see that the Deputy Pavilion Leader's understanding of cultivation was very good. With this, we can cultivate in peace. Bailey Hongzhuang waved the cultivation book in her hand. They hadn't made any progress for such a long time. It was indeed time to cultivate properly. The 2 of them didn't stay in the devouring or pavilion for long. They had achieved the purpose of this trip, and they had gained a lot. However, when they were about to leave, Zhou and Lei Jun were reluctant to leave. It seemed that they hadn't stayed here long enough. Let's go. Don't be so reluctant. Di Baichen looked at Zhou. If you really like a girl, why don't you bring her back? Nonsense, I just have some feelings for this city. Zhou looked at the city. Fortunately, you have to collect cultivation resources soon. Don't come. I'll come for you. Don't worry, I won't touch any of your cultivation resources. I'm serious. What do you think? You can come if you want, Di Baichen said. Anyway, They didn't plan to come and collect the cultivation resources themselves. Haha, thank you very much. Zhou Su's face was filled with joy. Like I said, I used to think that Ji Chuan wasn't easy to get along with. It's because you aren't Ji Chuan that our relationship is so close, haha. Lei Jun looked at Zhou Su, who was so happy that he had completely forgotten that their identities were different, and there was a touch of helplessness between his brows. By the way, I actually have a question that I've always wanted to ask you. Lei Jun thought for a while, but still said it. What is it? Just tell me. I'm sure you're all aware of what we did with Ji Chuan and the others back then. It was fine before, but now that you've become consuls, in the past they were of the same status, so it wasn't a big deal. But now that they were consuls, they had to give an explanation for secretly keeping the spirit-devouring stones. Even if he didn't say it, they would have to face this problem sooner or later. Whether they needed to be punished or not, this couldn't be avoided. After hearing this, Zhou Su's expression became nervous, and his heart couldn't help but panic. Chapter 73-69. Beichun, this is something that happened before. For the sake of us being brothers, can you let it go? Zhou Su looked worried. If this kind of thing was reported, both he and Lei Jun would be finished. Lei Jun didn't say anything, but his worry could be judged from his expression. I thought it was something serious. What's the matter? Di Beichun waved his hand with a faint smile and continued to move forward. It's not like I don't know what happened in the mine. Almost every steward will do this kind of thing. If you really want to investigate thoroughly, then all the stewards will have to be changed again. As soon as these words came out, Zhou Su and Lei Jun both breathed a sigh of relief and relaxed. Scare me to death. Zhou Su patted his chest. It turns out that this brother's sudden promotion is not good. Beichun, thank you. Lei Jun cupped his hands. Why are you so polite? Di Beichun smiled faintly. When Tang Yuan was here, you also helped me a lot. However, I still have to remind you, although Hong Zhuang and I are now consuls, you can't be too presumptuous because of this. It's fine in the past, but if you can't fill in the account every month, you should understand. Lei Jun nodded seriously. Don't worry, we know it in our hearts. We will never break the rules because of this. That's good. So, we can't do the business before, right? Zhou Su sighed. He didn't have enough cultivation resources on weekdays. It was too difficult to improve his cultivation. If they had no choice, they wouldn't have taken the risk to do business with outsiders. Now this path had been completely cut off. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang said, That's not it. We came in from that way before. We can tell you the method of this transaction. However, the people who traded with Ji Chuan every year were also our friends. If Gu Jian hadn't gone too far, he wouldn't have ended up like this. I hope that if you trade with him in the future, don't raise the price. Hearing this, Zhou Su couldn't help but be stunned. You mean we can continue to do this? That's right. Just don't go overboard. I'm not dreaming, am I? Zhou Su rubbed his eyes and looked at Lei Jun. This was too unbelievable. Lei Jun obviously did not expect such a result. This was simply great news for them. Back then, they had relied on Ji Chuan and Ji Yunshu, and the things they had received had been divided among them. Therefore, they had received much less than what they should have received. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had given them the method of the trade, it would be up to the two of them to split the profits in the future. With the same amount of devouring spirit stones, they would be able to obtain a lot more cultivation resources. Hongzhuang, thank you so much. You're welcome. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. They are also counting on this business deal. I only hope that you can get along well. Haha, don't worry. Since they're your friends, we definitely won't treat them unfairly. You can rest assured now. Relax, relax. I'm completely at ease. Zhou Su smiled. After returning, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun began closed-door cultivation. Bai Li Yinshe and the others also focused on cultivation. Last time when they fought with Qing Devil, they also suffered a great blow. The feeling of almost being unable to fight back was really uncomfortable. Only by breaking through to the elementary immortal stage as soon as possible could they be of help. Chapter 73-70. Inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang read the first grade cultivation method written in the cultivation method, and then closed her eyes and tried to cultivate. The origin energy in her dantian surged with the circulation of the cultivation manual. With a thought, the origin energy was drawn out and spread throughout her body. Previously, the origin energy in her limbs and bones flowed to her dantian. This time, it flowed in the opposite direction from the inside out. Bailey Hongzhuang tried carefully. When the origin energy covered her body, she finally understood the difference that the deputy pavilion leader had mentioned. The origin energy entered her skin and gradually merged with her skin. She could clearly feel the changes in her skin. Even though the changes were very small, she could still confirm that her skin was being tempered. The tempering in the first stage was the simplest. As long as the surface of her body was completely tempered and her skin became extremely hard, she would be considered to have successfully advanced to the first stage. However, during this process, she also realized that her origin energy was being consumed at an extremely fast rate. The origin energy of a cultivator in the elementary celestial stage was extremely rich. However, when it came to tempering, she realized that it was far from enough. Compared to the speed of tempering, the rate of consumption was simply shocking. Once the origin energy in her body was exhausted, she would have to stop tempering and wait until her origin energy recovered before she could continue tempering. In less than half a day, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes. The origin energy in her body had been completely depleted. The cultivation in the elementary celestial stage is indeed different. No wonder the deputy pavilion leader reminded me to save cultivation resources. With such a cultivation speed, if I were to accumulate cultivation resources, the consumption would be terrifying. However, if I don't do that and rely on my origin energy to recover before tempering, it would definitely take more time. She could only choose one of the two. She could either spend more time or spend more time. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. It seemed that she could not save cultivation resources. She took out 2 blood spirit stones and held them in her hands. She quickly absorbed the origin energy in the blood spirit stones and continued tempering chaotic immortal territory. Brother Mo, Sister Hongzhuang, and the rest have been gone for quite a long time. They haven't returned after so long. I wonder how they are now. Zhongli Mu's eyes were filled with worry. Originally, they had chosen to stay here so that they could break through to the elementary immortal stage as soon as possible. Now that the 2 of them had successfully broken through, they even made a trip back to the abandoned immortal forest. There was nothing much to do now. Mo Yunjue's eyes darkened as he looked at the distant horizon. They have always been smart. I don't think there will be any problems. Now that we've settled everything, why don't we go to the crossing immortal domain and look for them? Yunju, why don't we go now? A dark blue figure stood beside Mo Yunjue. The man's face was delicate and pretty, and his face was filled with concern. Yi-sun, there's no rush. Mo Yunjue shook his head, his eyes flashing with a bright light. They'll naturally come back to find us after they've settled the matter. In my opinion, they should be back soon. If we go to find them now, it will be troublesome if we get lost on the way. Zhongli Mu thought about it and nodded. You're right. Then let's wait here. I hope they can come back soon. I want to go to the immortal domain to take a look. That depends on whether Yin Che and the rest have broken through, Mo Yunjue said. I think it won't take long. Their cultivation talent is not weak. Zhongli Mu smiled, his young face filled with anticipation. End of chapter. Chapter 73-71. Yi-sun could not help but frown when he heard this. However, when the 2 of them looked at him, a smile immediately appeared on his face. Since that's the case, let's cultivate in peace. Didn't you say that they're all cultivation geniuses? Although we've improved quite a bit recently, they might have had better opportunities as well. When we meet them, we'll be at a disadvantage. Haha, you're right. Zhongli Mu nodded. Their strength has always improved very quickly. Back then, my cultivation was higher than theirs. I didn't expect them to catch up to me so quickly. When grandfather found out, he even said that I was an embarrassment. You're already a genius among geniuses for being able to break through to the elementary immortal stage at such a young age. Your grandfather must have said that to encourage you, Yi-sun said. A gentle expression appeared between Zhongli Mu's brows. His grandfather was also a well-known figure in the immortal region. As his grandson, he could not tarnish his grandfather's reputation. At night, Your Highness, Imo Yunjiwe and Dition aren't willing to look for them now. Yisun's expression was somewhat vexed, but more than that, he was nervous. The man glanced at him indifferently and said, "Since you've already gained their trust, just wait patiently. They'll come out soon anyway." "Your Highness, are you really sure that he's the person we're looking for?" Gong Jun thought that his methods were flawless, but how could I not have improved over the years? Back then, when he joined forces with Dition, I was unable to fight back. Now that so many years have passed, the situation is no longer the same. This time, I'll completely change the situation. The man's eyes gradually narrowed. His handsome and devilish face was filled with hatred and viciousness. But with Gong Jun's protection, I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to make a move. Yisun looked worried. If we make too much of a commotion and the first princess finds out, won't we? That's why I asked you to fight your way in and hide it from Gong Jun. How would he know if you're discovered? The man's lips curled. On one hand, Gong Jun was hiding it from him. On the other hand, he was hiding it from the first princess. If he directly told the first princess, it might be more difficult for him to find an opportunity. But now that the first palace master did not know, he had an opportunity to take advantage of. Do this matter well. If you succeed, you will have made a great contribution. Don't worry, Your Highness. This subordinate will definitely get it done. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Crossing immortal domain, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at her own skin. Even though it didn't seem to have changed much on the surface, she knew that her strength was no longer the same as before. With such a degree of toughness, even if it was cut by a blade, it would be impossible to leave a scar. I didn't expect that above the elementary immortal stage, one's physical body would be transformed into an immortal body. How interesting. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. Previously, when she was cultivating, she had always paid attention to the cultivation of her physical body. It was precisely because of this that her cultivation speed was much faster than ordinary cultivators of the elementary immortal realm. It was undoubtedly excellent. Even so, it would still take some time to break through to rank 1. Gong Jun smiled when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang come out of seclusion. "Sister-in-law, you've come out of seclusion?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "Gong Jun, I need some blood spirit stones." She had no other choice. Her cultivation was simply too wasteful of blood spirit stones. She could only shift her focus to Gong Jun. Chapter 73-72. Gong Jun's face immediately fell when he heard that. "Sister-in-law, what are you and Boss doing?" "Boss came yesterday and took away a lot of blood spirit stones. Why are you here again today?" "Cultivation requires blood spirit stones." Bailey Hongzhuang found it funny when she heard that Deep Beichun had come yesterday. She didn't think blood spirit stones were important in the past, but now that she was cultivating, she realized how important they were. No wonder Zhou Su and the others didn't make any progress in their cultivation. At this rate of consumption, the manager's cultivation resources were far from enough. "These are the remaining blood spirit stones. Boss probably guessed that you didn't have enough blood spirit stones on you, so he left half behind when he took them away yesterday." Gong Jun's lips twitched. When he took out the blood spirit stones yesterday, he realized that his boss had only taken half of them. He was rather touched. It seemed that the blood spirit stones weren't left for him, but for his sister-in-law, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stand on ceremony and immediately put the blood spirit stones away. "Thank you." Gong Jun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with tears in his eyes. When he saw that she was about to leave, he couldn't help but ask, "Sister-in-law, you really didn't leave anything for me?" "Qin Returning Tower has a lot of profit every day. Don't be sad. There will be more soon." Bailey Hongzhuang comforted him before taking out some pills from her storage ring. She said, "Take these pills and sell them. You should be able to sell some." Gong Jun immediately beamed with joy when he saw that. Bailey Hongzhuang's pills had always been of excellent quality. They could be sold for a high price in the crossing immortal domain. "Sister-in-law, don't worry. Leave it to me." Bailey Hongzhuang didn't waste time. She took the cultivation resources and went to cultivate again. The pills in her hand were actually leftovers from before. With their current cultivation, they didn't have much of a chance to use them. It just so happened that most of the cultivators in the Crossing Immortal domain weren't strong, so these pills could be put to good use. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. Bailey Hongzhuang was overjoyed when she noticed that her skin was starting to turn gray. According to the records in the book given by the deputy pavilion leader, such a situation meant that he had successfully advanced to rank 1. For 2 whole months, she had been cultivating in seclusion, and the consumption of blood spirit stones was extremely fast. Today, she had finally succeeded in breaking through. She thought that her body already had very few impurities. She didn't expect that she would be able to expel these impurities after breaking through. When he reached the end of his cultivation, his body would completely transform into the body of an immortal. That would be completely different. When the impurities were completely discharged, Bailey Hongzhuang familiarized herself with it and walked out of the room with a refreshed look. Even though she had only broken through to rank 1, she could clearly feel that she was different. Her spirit was better than usual. Not only that, his vision had become clearer, his range of vision had become wider, and he could even hear sound from afar very clearly. Being able to see and hear clearly was a very good feeling. Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the room with a smile. When she noticed that Di Beichun was also outside, she immediately walked over quickly. "Wife, you broke through." Di Beichun noticed the changes in Bailey Hongzhuang and asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "You broke through faster than me. I just broke through 2 days ago, so we're at the same time." Shangguan Yingying also walked out of the room when she heard the commotion in the courtyard. She saw that the sun was just right, and the immortal couple was chatting happily. Chapter 73-73. You're finally out. You've been in seclusion for 2 months. Shangguan Yingying walked over quickly, but stopped before she reached Bailey Hongzhuang. "Wait, let me see. You two seem different." "What's the difference?" Di Beichun asked. Shangguan Yingying carefully looked at the two of them, and a look of understanding appeared in her eyes. "Hongzhuang, I haven't seen you for 2 months. You seem to have become more beautiful. Your skin is more sparkling and translucent, and more delicate." Shangguan Yingying's eyes widened. As a woman, she had always been very concerned about her appearance. With just one look, she noticed the difference. Hongzhuang was already very beautiful, but now she was truly beautiful and charming. She was more delicate than a flower. "Di Beichun too. You're even better looking." Shangguan Yingying shouted behind her. "Xiren, come and take a look." When Xiren heard her voice and quickly walked out of the room. "What's wrong? Take a look. Haven't they become more beautiful?" Shangguan Yingying asked. Xiren looked carefully and said suspiciously, "Don't tell me you two have dual cultivation?" Bang! Di Beichun sent Xiren flying with a palm strike. When Xiren crawled up from the ground, patted the dust off his body, and said, "I was just asking, why are you so savage? If you've really obtained any dual cultivation techniques, can you teach me?" Bang! Shangguan Yingying kicked Xiren and sent him flying. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Shangguan Yingying's cheeks were slightly red. She found it funny. This Xiren really had no scruples at all. He even dared to say such things in broad daylight. "You two are too exaggerated." Xiren got up again. "Didn't I just say a few words? Do you have to treat me like this?" When Bailey Yin Che and the others heard the commotion outside, they all walked out of the house. When they saw Xiren, who was in a sorry state, they couldn't help but ask, "Xiren, what did you do this time?" "Beichun and Hongzhuang have obtained the dual cultivation method. I was just asking them, and they beat me up." "Yin Che, you're Hongzhuang's brother. You have to ask them." Bailey Yinche's face instantly darkened. He was starting to regret asking that question. Don't bother with him. He's just bored out of his mind, so he's looking for trouble. Shangguan Yingying was too lazy to say more about this matter. Even if they were married, it was still embarrassing to talk about this kind of thing. Ling looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and noticed the same problem. "Hongzhuang, you become more beautiful." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "After we went to the devouring or pavilion this time, we realized that the cultivation of the elementary celestial stage is the cultivation of the physical body. We went into seclusion for 2 months and successfully broke through to the first grade elementary celestial stage. Our bodies have undergone a certain transformation, which is why we look different. Hearing this, everyone understood. So that's how it is. The cultivation after the elementary celestial stage is actually like this. That's right. My physical strength is now much stronger than before. My defense has also increased. After entering the elementary celestial stage, the most important thing is to transform the mortal body into the body of an immortal. Therefore, every part of the body needs to be refined one by one. We've never considered this problem before, so we delayed a lot of our cultivation time. Chapter 73-74. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. If she had known that this was the case with their cultivation speed, they would have at least broken through to the first grade by the time Azure Demon found them. Perhaps they would not have been suppressed so miserably. Who would have thought that the cultivation method after the elementary celestial realm would be completely different? Bali Yin Che comforted them. I believe that with your talent, it's only a matter of time before you catch up with the Qing devil. Fortunately, you've already figured out this problem. Otherwise, I'm afraid it would take even longer. Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Thanks to you, we won't have to take such a detour when the time comes. Hongzhuang and I have broken through to level 1. Have you broken through to the elementary celestial realm? Di Beichen asked. Bali Yin Che smiled. I finally broke through a few days ago. I've also broken through, Linger said. Hearing this good news, Bailey Hongzhuang's face was overjoyed. She immediately handed the cultivation method in her hand to the two of them and said, "This is a detailed introduction to the cultivation method after the beginning immortal stage. Take a look." Bali Yin Che put away the book. Okay, we've just broken through, so we need to stabilize our cultivation for a while. We'll cultivate when the time comes. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. It's good to stabilize your cultivation. You're demonic beasts, so we can't compare with your physical strength. It should be very easy for you to break through to level 1. We're still a little short. I'm afraid it'll take a while before we can break through. Di Xiaofeng looked helpless. He thought his cultivation talent was very outstanding, but compared with Di Beichen and the others, he realized that his talent was much weaker. It's a threshold to break through from the Radiant Sun realm to the elementary celestial realm. It's not easy to break through, so it's normal to spend more time. Don't be too anxious. Sometimes, going too far is as bad as falling short. Di Beichen's expression was calm. He thought about how many cultivators in the immortal chaos realm had been stuck at the brilliant sun realm for many years without being able to break through. For them to be able to break through in such a short amount of time was already a great opportunity. Even if he had to spend more time, as long as he could make a breakthrough, it would be extremely outstanding. Beichun, I've thought about it carefully. Since you've already broken through to the elementary celestial stage, why don't you head to the immortal region first? Di Xiaofeng's expression was serious. This was the result of his careful consideration. Based on my and Yin-Yan situation, it will take us a while to break through. Even if we enter the immortal region now, we will only be a burden to you. Since that was the case, he might as well stay here for now. When Father comes over and everything here settles down, it won't be too late to look for you after I make a breakthrough. What do you think? Di Beichun was an eagle. He was suited for a wider world. As the elder brother, he couldn't keep up with his younger brother's pace. At the very least, he couldn't drag his younger brother down. With his strength, crossing celestial domain was a good choice. He also wanted to go to the immortal region, but it would take him more time. Hearing this, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other. The two of them didn't expect Di Xiaofeng to make such a suggestion. Xiaofeng's words make sense. You still have a lot of things to deal with. Staying in the crossing celestial domain won't increase your strength much. Why don't you head to the immortal region? Linger said slowly. Now that the situation in the crossing celestial domain was more or less settled, there was no need to continue staying here. Chapter 73-75. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it carefully and nodded. That's not a bad idea. They needed to improve their strength. Now, they had only mastered the cultivation method. If they wanted to improve further, they would have to go to the immortal region. After Father and the others ascend, I will arrange everything properly. You can rest assured. When you have a place to stay in the immortal region, it will be very convenient for us to find you. Di Xiaofeng smiled slightly. His younger brother and sister-in-law were definitely not ordinary people. Perhaps the next time they met, the two of them would be very far away from them. However, he was never jealous. He only hoped that they would get better and better. Di Baichen pondered and said, "Okay, then we will go to the immortal region and work hard. When we have a certain foundation, you can come back." Azure Demon was currently in the celestial realm. Although he was severely injured last time, he didn't take his life. Most likely, he was still on guard against them now. In addition, according to the Vice Pavilion Master, they might encounter some trouble after going to the celestial realm. If they brought everyone along, it would be more dangerous if they encountered any problems. It was better to wait for them to stabilize and then let Big Brother come. This way, it would be safer. Then what about Ying and I? Xiren's expression changed. Yin Shay and Ling had broken through, so they naturally had to go together. However, he and Ying hadn't. Should they go or stay here? Di Baichen glanced at Xiren. "Do you need me to find a dual cultivation method for you?" Xiren's expression stiffened. "You are still teasing me at this time. Instead of focusing on these things, you should spend more time on cultivation. Look, Yin Shay and the others have all broken through." Xiren couldn't help but lower his head. He was a little ashamed. In comparison, his strength had improved a little too slowly. Baichen and the others had given him a lot of cultivation resources since they came back. Compared to other cultivators, their cultivation conditions were undoubtedly much better. However, with the help of Baichen and the others, he still hadn't broken through. It was really embarrassing. However, he soon realized that something was amiss. "That's not right. My cultivation talent can't compare to the two of you in the first place. Yin Shay is a beast king, and his cultivation talent is already very abnormal. It's not something that I can compare to, okay? You make it sound like I don't want to make progress. It wasn't that he wasn't cultivating. While Baichen and the others were in closed-door cultivation for 2 months, he had also been in closed-door cultivation. What happened to Qing Devil taught him a lesson. He decided to make a breakthrough as soon as possible in order to pay back what Qing Devil and Xiao So had done to him. That despicable and shameless woman. The memory of how she stabbed Ying was still fresh in his mind. If he didn't kill her, he would never forget it. Di Baichen chuckled. "I'm just reminding you. Are you going or not?" Xiren looked at Shangwan Ying. Ying didn't say anything. He thought for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "I'll go too." All these years, he had been cultivating with Baichen. He had a premonition that if he stayed in the crossing celestial domain this time, the gap between him and Baichen would be even bigger in the future. He might not be able to catch up with him anymore. "Then let's go together." Di Baichen wasn't surprised. He patted Xiren's shoulder and said, "Seize the time and cultivate well." In the celestial domain, all cultivators had reached the elementary celestial stage. If they didn't break through, they would be bullied even if they went in. Chapter 73-76. Seeing that Di Baichen agreed without hesitation, Xiren also smiled. "Okay, after you go, stay in the Chaos Ring for the time being. We'll first inquire about the situation. If the brilliant Sun Realm cultivators are not in a difficult situation, you guys can come out. If the situation is too difficult, you guys can stay here for the time being." "I understand." Xiren nodded. The cultivation environment in the Chaos Ring is not bad. If the time comes, we'll go back to the upper realm for a while. We can go after we break through. Okay. After making this decision, everyone decided to leave. Di Baichen quickly arranged everything. At the same time, he introduced Zhou Su to Di Xiaofeng. After the two knew that Di Xiaofeng was Di Baichen's big brother, they were extremely polite. Originally, Di Baichen planned to arrange a job for Di Xiaofeng. Becoming a steward was not a bad choice. However, when Gong Jun knew that everyone was preparing to leave, he immediately refused. No matter what, he wanted to leave with everyone. Regarding this, no one objected. They handed the returning Chun Tower to Di Xiaofeng. Now that everything in the returning Chun Tower was on track, he only needed to take a look at the situation. He did not need to spend too much effort. With the returning Chun Tower, they could be considered to have something to rely on here. They did not even have to worry about cultivation resources. When the time comes, we'll come back depending on the situation. Di Beichun said. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. Don't worry, your big brother is not useless. Leave these things to me. I'll take care of it properly. I've always known big brother's ability. Di Beichun chuckled. As the young master of the Di family, Di Xiaofeng had always been extremely outstanding. These things were really simple for him. Right, this is for you. Di Xiaofeng handed him a note. Looking at the note in his hand, a location was written on it. This is? The nine-tailed Inferno Fox has already woken up. This time, when I decided not to go, it also agreed. Previously, we had promised it that we would go to a place. This is the place it was talking about. After you go to the immortal domain, you must go and take a look. Hearing this, Di Beichun also understood. Don't worry, I will definitely go. Yes. Di Xiaofeng let out a sigh of relief. I believe the nine-tailed Inferno Fox won't harm you, but the demonic beasts here are very strong. I think you should be careful. He had already witnessed the strength of the nine-tailed Inferno Fox. A demonic beast that the nine-tailed Inferno Fox called very strong. Its strength was unimaginable. No one knew what a murderer like that would be like once he got angry. Perhaps it would be extremely dangerous. I'll be careful. Xiaofeng, don't worry. Beichun has a very powerful contracted beast. Who knows? We might be able to see a great battle between the two of them. When Xiren chuckled, thinking about your contracted beasts, each stronger than the other, I'm really envious. When can I also have a contracted beast like that? At that time, I won't have to do anything and just let someone else do it. It's both majestic and elegant. It's simply perfect. The reason why you can't find a powerful contracted beast is probably because of your thinking, who would have nothing better to do than to come work for you. Xiao Xuanzi couldn't help but say. Chapter 73-77. Xiao Xuanzi felt that after following his master for so long, his master had never had such an idea. Thinking about it carefully, he was really lucky. Xiren's tone stagnated, and his face was a little dark. Was this guy looking for a beating? Seeing this, Xiao Hua couldn't help but laugh. Xiren was simply a clown. Under such circumstances, the group embarked on the journey back. According to the deputy pavilion master, although the ascension entrance to the immortal domain had been closed, there was a way to enter the immortal domain every 3 years. This was the connection between the devouring or pavilion and the immortal domain. As a member of the devouring or pavilion, they could use this method to enter the immortal domain, but there was still a long time before the next time they went to the immortal domain, so they decided to go back through the natural mode. What's more, they had to go to Xiyun City to meet up with Yunju and the others. Di Beichun, Hong Zhuang, be careful on your way back. Seeing them leave, Zhou Su and Xiao Xuanzi felt a little reluctant. After getting along with each other during this period, they had become very close. In the future, this deal will be handed over to you. Don't spread it out, and you must keep it a secret. Di Beichun warned. Once this kind of thing was spread out, it would inevitably cause a huge disturbance. At that time, not only would they be in trouble, but Lu Jin and the others would also be finished. Don't worry, we still cherish our lives very much. This kind of thing that threatens our lives is impossible. Lei Jun chuckled. That's good. I hope we will have a chance to meet again in the future. There will be. It was dark all around. The dark aura of the natural moat hit them in the face, and the sunlight never appeared here. Even if everyone's strength had improved, when crossing the natural moat, everyone was still cautious about the dangers that might appear at any time. Fortunately, they still remember the route they took, and they also remembered some of the places that needed to be paid attention to by Boss Qian. When they returned to the town again, they found that the formerly peaceful town was now emitting a huge energy fluctuation, and some familiar houses had been turned into ruins. What's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. This situation was obviously caused by someone. Could it be that someone had fought? Lu Jin, I advise you to tell me the route now. Otherwise, all of you will die. A man looked at Lu Jin arrogantly. At this moment, he had one hand around Lu Qiu's neck, and his eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Behind him, several men had already restrained Yang Tianzhao and Jiang Zhen. The two of them had clearly suffered a vicious beating. Their clothes were stained with blood, and they looked miserable with pale faces. They knelt on the ground as their blood mixed with sand and stones flowed all over the ground. Lu Jin, don't tell him. Jiang Zhen gritted his teeth. Even if you tell him, he won't let us go. We're going to die anyway. Even if we die, we can't let them die happily. Bang! The man kicked Jiang Zhen's body. If you keep talking, I'll kill you right now. Father, don't say it. Lu Qiu's eyes were filled with hatred. Even if the knife on his neck was very close and blood was gradually seeping out, he was still fearless. Seeing this, Lu Jin also revealed a look of hesitation on his face. He understood that in this situation, he would not be able to escape death in the end. However, if he did not say anything, he really could not watch everyone die in front of him. Chapter 73-78. Looks like you're not motivated enough. Why don't I kill one of you first? The man laughed coldly as his gaze swept across Lu Qiu and the others. Should I kill him first, him, or him? Why don't I kill your son first? Since he's never been to the natural moat, there's no point in keeping him alive. As soon as he finished speaking, the man's expression instantly turned ferocious. He gradually exerted more force on the sharp sword in his hand, and fresh blood flowed down the tip of the sword and onto Lu Qiu's clothes. In an instant, his neck was dyed bright red. Lu Qiu's body trembled as the fear of death enveloped him. However, he stubbornly gritted his teeth and did not say a word. Qiu! Lu Jin screamed at the top of his lungs as his hands trembled incessantly. However, in the face of his son's determined gaze, even though his eyes were filled with tears, he did not say a word in the end. Just as they had said, none of them would be able to escape this calamity. Even if they were to die, they would not let the other party have a good time. You go first. Father will be with you soon, Lu Jin said in a low voice. When the man saw that Lu Jin had no intention of giving up at this point, he was instantly enraged, and his attack became even more ruthless. Since that's the case, then die. The sharp sword in the man's hand turned from a cut to a stab and fiercely pierced towards Lu Qiu's neck. Ding! A clear sound rang out, and the sharp sword in the man's hand fell to the ground. The sudden turn of events caused everyone to raise their heads and look in front of them in confusion. Lu Jin and the others' faces were filled with disbelief. Young Master D? Di Beichen and the others rushed to Lu Jin's side. After they had climbed up the natural moat, they had already smelled the scent of blood coming from the small town. This had made them feel extremely strange, and they had not expected to see such a scene when they had arrived. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly brought Lu Qiu to the side and took out a bandage to stop his bleeding. Lu Qiu had long given up hope and was only waiting for death to come. He did not expect that at the last moment, someone would come to save him. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say much. She took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth. She then wrapped up the wound and said, "Your injury isn't very serious. The wound on your neck is only a flesh wound. It hasn't hurt your core. You just have to be careful not to let the blood flow out again." Lu Qiu nodded blankly and stood behind Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Even at this moment, he still couldn't believe that his life was saved. A glimmer of hope appeared in the eyes of Lu Jin and the rest. They were already in a desperate situation, and the appearance of Di Beichen's group was no different from divine soldiers descending from the heavens. "What's going on?" Di Beichen asked in a deep voice. Jiang Zhen and Yang Tianzhao were both under their control. Not far away, there were many corpses of the townsfolk. It was obvious that a bloody battle had broken out here. They wanted to get the method to enter the natural moat from us. If we didn't tell them, they would massacre the entire town. Lu Jin quickly calmed down, and his hands stopped trembling. He immediately explained the situation in a concise and comprehensive manner. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not surprised. There was nothing special about this small town. If not for this, the other party would not have acted so wantonly. This matter is a bit strange. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly, her eyes looking at the other party's group. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.